using us as slave labor.
The uprising is upon us!
We're under attack!
Paradigm of absolute control. And that's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural, and this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murder scum. They're on giant death factories keeping babies alive and selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin and they run around screaming, we love Satan, we want to eat babies. I have them on video. Hillary's in the creepy weird sick stuff man. She sleeps in the same room with that creepy weird woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. What the hell? That woman number one is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. I'm told her and Obama just stink. Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur. The literal vampire pot and the goblins are hobbling round coming after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go. We're such self-centered crap. We don't even notice hell itself rising up against us. Millions of pointed people of the very worst type, and I'm so pissed. We're gonna stab your daughter at the mall. We're gonna stab your wife, your son. We're gonna stab you with a butcher knife, and then the police chief is gonna say, we love our Somalis, we love our Muslims. Oh, they're so good, oh, they're so sweet.
I was watching Fox News as I worked out this.
Good morning, good morning. Oh, I'm peeking bad. Good morning, my beauties and bees, and welcome back to another Live from the Hive. And today I got my windows open because I wanted some sunshine. I've been kind of gloomy, so I need a little sunshine today. And it is 420 weekend. It is also Easter weekend, and we're going to make the most of it. So I did some silly this morning. Hope you all liked BugBot's new, I think I played that one before for you all, but I don't play it as much. Just because it's a lot longer than the other intros, because it has that added segment, because it's strings versus keys, basically. And then, yes, I'm trying to be festive, Rainbow Wrath. I am. I also have my cute little pin here. And I tried to do brown and green eyeshadow, but it just kind of, the green doesn't really pop, because the only green I have is this very, very bright one up here, which is a good Easter green. But due to my skin tone being kind of green naturally, it doesn't pop as much. Yeah, so good morning, folks. It is right now, it's, April 19th, but we're gonna roll with it. April 19th, but we're gonna be festive anyway. And It's 8:40 right now, which gives us 5 minutes for a little preamble and to talk about the polls and stuff. And the merch, actually, speaking of the merch, I don't know if you saw in the chat, but my computer did the restart thing. And it was like, I felt like it finally restarted at 10 minutes, so I had to pull everything back up. Which is fine. I mean, I'm glad the computer's doing it self-maintenance. I want to say hello to all my beautiful friends out there. Let me see. Got Weston Campbell was first. Yes, you were. And then PC was up in here saying, like, share, and subscribe, and I couldn't agree more. And I forget to shill, and PC and Bugbot do it for me for the most part. And then the show kind of started where I started whining about my computer. There's Lord Falconis. Hello, Lord Falconis. Got Joanna Brown in the house. Hello. Sorry I'll miss this one. It's after midnight where I am. Need my beauty sleep. Okay, Joanna. Well, I'm glad you popped in to show some love. Hopefully you'll hit the like button. Maybe put this on your watch later list. Would love to see that. D is here. Deep Arcs. Good morning, D. And then Captive Desk showed up. Look at the Trees is here. I did plug Captive Desk. I think I got Tree. Does Trees have a link on my link thing? Hold on. If not, we'll remedy that. But yes, look at the tree. All you gotta do is it's this one. This is the command. It's just trees. Yeah, trees like that. And then you got a tree. Look at the trees link. Well, I don't want to spend too much time because I got to talk about the polls, so I won't. Yeah, but good morning, Rainbow, on my unfinished journey. Native Atheist. Yeah. There you go. That's how it works. So I'm not trying to leave anybody out. I just need to get rolling because I played the long intro today to celebrate the holiday weekend. But moving forward, we are going to talk about, first and foremost, maybe not foremost, but first, definitely first, we need to talk about the polls. How will I do this? Oh, yeah, we do it. We've been doing it in here. All right, so let's look at these polls. Where are you at? There you go. I wish I could see it before I select it, though. Okay, so this week's polls for the Wednesday. So I do the show in segments. If anybody doesn't know, I do 3 parts. The first segment is Cryptic Corner, which generally starts here in about 2 minutes. The second part is weird. I call it weird with it, but when I produce it, it's weird. It's Weird Wednesday is really what it is. It just doesn't make any sense to call it Weird Wednesday when we do it live on a Saturday, and I publish it for premiere for a Wednesday. But I digress. I just want to kind of keep it vibing. So I do some silly stuff, some serious stuff. It's mostly nonsense. It's debunking woo for the weirdness of it. This week we had Return to Lost Zarahemla. That's the fabled city in the Book of Mormon. Psychic surgery, where these people go into poor communities in less developed countries and grift off of people's illness, and we'll crack that open. Knights of Tartaria. When it comes to Tartaria, there's always going to be something Tartaria on this poll, I fear, but these knights are something special. I think they're more like Iron Man than just any kind of knight. And then we had Fart Magic, which won the day. It was the very first time on the poll. No, it was on the poll last week too, maybe. Yeah, it was on the poll last week. But Fart Magic wins the day. So we're doing some Fart Magic today. I'm not going to be farting. I'm sorry. I didn't eat the proper diet to prepare for this episode, but we'll let Mind Unveiled unwrap that for us, because that's who's cracking that open. Now, this week's poll for Cryptic Corner was super close, right? Look at this. We had 22% for Yeti. Y'all know what a Yeti is, I'm sure, at this point. We're going to talk about the Shipton expedition. And then we had 28% for Spring-Heeled Jack, a Victorian cryptid. Or maybe a cryptid, maybe a supernatural entity. We'll dive into it. Maybe a night hunting vigilante or night hunting serial killer. I don't know. We'll break it open and just explore all the different angles of Spring-Heeled Jack when we cover that. Valiant Thor, which was the CIA's alien contact for the first part of the second half of the 20th century. He allegedly was, helping them in the Pentagon. And then we had, this isn't the first time, and it won't be the last time we cover big cats in Britain, because every little moorland has one. But we're going to do my favorite one, maybe of the beast of blanks coming out of Great Britain, and we're going to cover the beast of Bodmin Moor, and that's coming up in just a few moments on Cryptic Corner. But before that, I want to remind everybody that Cryptic Corner and Hive Sci in general, we have merch, right? We have merch for you. We have Cryptic Corner t-shirts. This one's going away next month. So if you want the Fresno Night Stalker or Nightcrawler, not Night Stalker, yikes. And if you want the Fresno Nightcrawler t-shirt, get it now because it'll be gone soon. We got Mothman, and we got the Swamp Bugger, and we got the Jersey Devil, and the Michigan Dogman, and we gotta also have the Mothman beanie, and then there's just some regular old. This is older, but it's the regular Hive Science or Hive Sci merch. We got the Clamine Moth. I think someone ordered this. If was it who ordered the Clamine Moth? Was it? I won't look at the order history right now. I don't want to dox anybody. But we got Pride socks. Because I know that one of these went out recently. Mostly it's been the Cryptic Corner t-shirts that are like basically going really good. But some of the previous merch is going too. I sold one of these hoodies, and I'm gonna put some pics of it up that the buyer sent to me, so y'all can see what it looks like and the quality is like. Because let me know if I need to switch distributors, because I will. But so far I've had good reports back from Fourth Wall. You get caps and beanies and hats of all sorts. I'm probably gonna switch this color out because I don't like this with you just can't see it. So I'll probably get rid of the yellow. I might come up with a different yellow beanie, though, because I do like that color beanie. So I might put something different on it. Maybe just the Cryptic Corner, and maybe do this one in the yellow. I don't know. Anyway, speaking of Cryptic Corner in general, we're going to pop right over there. So I will see you all in just a moment in Cryptic Corner. Hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome once again to another installment of Cryptic Corner, where we explore the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. I'm your host, Miss Bumblebee, and for this legendary weekend, we are doing a legendary creature that's quite famous, and maybe the most famous cryptid proper from the UK. Because today we're talking about the beast of Bodmin Moor. And I found that when it comes to covering legendary cryptids, I like to try to take it from a few different angles, but we'll work with what we can. Let me see here. So we are going to do this as told by Roanoke Tales. It's a pretty big channel, but let's see. They talk about all the different cryptids, so and other entities of fear and darkness. They also do disappearances and yeah. Oh, they did the Loveland Frogman a month ago, the Loveland Frog, which frogopomorphic. I don't think that would be right. It'd be a neuromorphic, maybe a neura. Yeah, it'd be a neuromorphic. It wouldn't be frogomorphic. Oh, but I'm being pedantic. I'm famously pedantic. I got told by someone on Blue Sky that I was woke pedantic. I'm like, I am very proud to be woke pedantic. That works for me. That fits me. I'm willing to put that into my descriptors. But enough about that. We're going to, as a family, as a hive, we're going to swarm right into this video and we're going to talk about the Beast of Bodmin Moor. There's a weird amount of evidence and there's good reason for that. And we'll crack that egg. Let's see. Let's get this show on the road. Who's ready? Make sure I got this unmuted so y'all don't have to yell at me in the side chat, which do yell at me because I will forget. I'm a ADHD middle-aged stoner woman, so I need all the help I can get.
There is nothing better than the feeling of heading home after a long day at work. Something about the call of comfort and familiarity that awaits for you just a short distance away. A bit of warm food and something to settle you in. The sounds and sights of the moor are something that you've always been used to. A seemingly endless landscape that spreads out in front of you. There's something about
that was not a moor, that was a lake. But I'll allow it. Maybe it was a moor lake.
Every single step that feels somehow familiar and somewhat as though this is the first time you've ever set foot in this particular spot all at once. It's the mist that does this. That's the best you can figure anyway. You've heard all the stories. Something is out there. Something that has no business padding the moorlands around here. Something bigger than normal. Something more vicious or more deadly. Like all the stories and legends, they seem like absolute nonsense at the time. Nothing more than tall tales from people who want to make the most of a relatively minor situation. Or, more likely, tourists who have literally zero experience with the local wildlife seem to somehow end up confusing a perfectly normal sight or sound with something that isn't. But in the gathering dusk, the stories feel a little more real. When the sun's light is sealing itself away down below the horizon and the darkness is clawing its way across the landscape, swallowing up the hollows and the dips all around you, it suddenly feels as though you are reassessing.
Now, I do appreciate the bravado that Roanoke puts into their stories. I know they're a big channel and they don't need my promotion, but Roanoke Tales, give them a subscribe if you don't. You got to take it at face value that they're a storyteller, which, I love a good storyteller. The only way that a storyteller can do better than this type of bravado is if they have a southern accent for me. I love like Dixie Bigfoot and stuff. Sometimes I'll fall asleep listening to that. There's a few channels out there. Bob Gimlin's one. He doesn't have a southern accent, but he's a good storyteller. And we covered Bob Gimlin recently, I believe, about it's one in Illinois. I do so many of these. I'm sorry. Give me a second to think of it. It's the Enfield Horror. Yeah, the three-legged creature that stalked the suburbs of, or not suburbs, but the rural areas of Illinois, of eastern Illinois.
All these stories, as though you are reviewing them once again in the half-light around you. As someone who's spent countless minutes, days, and probably weeks by this point on the moors, you feel confident that you can identify every sight and sound. But something about this rapidly gathering dark and the mist that seems to linger far longer than it ever did has somehow got you jumpy. It's got you on edge. feeling something deep inside of you flinching at every sound and every movement. And instead of the sounds and sights all at once, it is the silence that gets you. You can hear your own breath. You can hear the sound of your footsteps squelching through the sodden turf under your feet. But suddenly, there's nothing else. No birds chirping, no distant calls through the mist. All of a sudden, it's as though you have been left entirely alone.
Wait, was that Freddy Krueger? Oh no, okay. Well,
Chirping, no distant calls through the mist. All of a sudden, it's as though you have been left entirely alone on the moor, and it is not a pleasant feeling. You stop, you look, you listen. There's always life around, always something making noise, always some sign of some other living being around.
Oh, is the shop link not working? I have it here if we need it. I thought I had it here. Hold on. I can put the shop link back up. Because I am making sure this works first. Bear with me. Yeah, there we go. All right. There's the shop link. It won't show up for you guys for a second, but I pasted it in the chat. Give it a minute to show up. There you go.
It's all there all the time. You just need to take time to notice. But nothing seems to come. Your mind casts back to the stories that you've heard, the tales of the beast, and the rational part of your brain that's telling you it isn't possible is barely audible over the silence. Finally, a sound, or what might have been a sound. Just another acknowledgement that there is life out there with you. But the footfalls sound unusually heavy. Not nearly loud enough to be another person, but definitely heavier than anything else you would expect here. A shape starts to emerge out of the endless gray all around you. First, seems to be like a wildcat. Not very common down here, but definitely something that would make sense. But the closer it comes, the more it doesn't make sense. It seems too big and too confident. Everything about it seems slightly bigger and somehow more intimidating than anything else you've come across. It's as though it grows with every step that it takes
toward.
Oh,
that's a baby cheetah! Oh, I guess baby cheetahs are so cute. And they have this, like, it's a type of camouflage, actually, but not the type of, I mean, it does camouflage them in the grass to some extent, but this fur pattern and coat composition and their this coat down here starts off a lot darker too. This one's actually a little bigger and it's not as light as it, or it's not as dark as it used to be, but this is they look like honey badgers is the thing. They'll have this white mohawk, and then this section down here is darker when they're younger. This lightens up as they grow, and then this kind of shortens up as they grow. Some subgroups have phenotypic little manes on their back that remain into adulthood, though, so they keep a little bit of that back fluff. But the babies have that to disguise themselves as honey badgers, because even a lion will think twice about sticking its nose into a honey badger nest, right?
Towards you, like its body just fills out more and its height increases with every time the paws touch the ground. It looks bulkier and more substantial with every bit of the distance that it closes. And not one thing about it seems bothered about the fact that you're standing there. The fact that a full-size adult is right in front of it.
So, showing all the big cats is what they're showing here, but I believe the beast of Bodmin or Bodmin Moor is typically depicted as a black cat. Yeah.
Keeps coming, eating up the distance between the two of you as you stand frozen, watching and feeling entirely incapable of doing anything else except for remembering. Even when it pauses less than 10 feet away, you already know its head is bigger than anything you'd expect to encounter. And when it flashes these teeth,
wait, was that a hyena?
You've ever... Oh, its head is bigger than anything you'd expect to encounter. And when
yeah, it was a hyena.
Pauses less than 10 feet away, you already know its head is bigger than anything you'd expect to encounter.
Yes, spotted hyena. Now, nothing about the beast of Bodmin Moor is hyena-like, but I just caught a hyena and wanted to look at it because I think hyenas are cute. I like their derpy little ears and their big muscular jaws. I don't know how else to explain it. They're like one of my favorite animals.
And when it flashes these teeth, it is unlike anything you've ever seen. You look down and see the claws protruding from its massive paws, and there is something about it that strikes you as a little different. The cold sweat on your neck is only a temporary sensation, as it seems to freeze instantly in the gathering fog. Whatever is in front of you sniffs again, seemingly assessing you, and with just a little ceremony it turns around and pads off back into the grayness all around. Once again you are left alone with nothing more than the gathering dusk. The feel of sweat.
That is true. right-handed Sith. Absolutely true. Makes sense. The only thing that would mess with a honey badger is a wolverine. Only because he has high healing factor and adamantium claws. Yeah.
Wet on your
True.
skin, and a bit of a story to tell. What you just heard is one of the many encounters that people claim to have had with what has become known as the beast or beasts of Bodmin Moor.
Yes, there's also there's the beast of the Gulf Coast, which is actually Butters. So it's different beasts, but they get mixed up a lot. You can tell because Butters is usually orange and the beast is usually black. But other than that, same type of good morning, Sumami. Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, Theo. Who else do we got? We got more people popping in. Reggie is here. Yay. Heck, we got some lurkers too. Brainless Steel. Lurk and lurk. I love my lurkers too. I love all of you guys. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me.
While it may lack the pizzazz and appeal of some of the other
I like this depiction because it's unique. It's like you can tell it's AI because look at this messed up leg here. But I digress. The proportions of it, where it's got sort of a mountain lion like proportions, but a unique, almost lynx-like head, gives it because this is like an animal that could exist and be indigenous, that like descended from European wildcats or something in the future, or some other felid in some specific habitat, even a bobcat or a lynx. But a lot of people depict it with like horns or like a panther, or like a panther sphinx cat, which is really weird and gross looking.
that we have looked at on this channel, there is one attribute that we need to say from the start that it is doing quite well: plausibility. Yes, the kryptonite of every myth and legend ever. The silver bullet that seems to slay every tale that we all enjoy looking into and believing might be true. Sort of like, what was that thing in Colorado that eats loggers? It just kind of slides down and it looks like a whale on the side of a mountain. I cannot remember its name, but good lord, that one does not have any plausibility. Anyways, what's unusual?
Yeah, I know that. We'll do a Cryptic Corner just on. I'm not going to give each one of them their own episode, but we will do a Cryptic Corner on fearsome critters. Some fearsome critters will get their own episode. I don't have any problem giving like a jackalope its own episode because it has a rich history in Western culture that we could talk about, and I mean it's a fun one. But the giant centipedes are, I've covered them before, but I may go back over them again, and they're more plausible. And actually there's a species. Oh, that's Binky. Is that Binky? Oh, thank you, Rainbow Wrath, for buying a t-shirt. Appreciate you. Yeah, they are awesome. And you can buy me coffee too, like Aunt Jer's saying, at that treat stream link. There's I only got a couple things on there. I'm still feeling out how to navigate it, but I'll get there. Yeah. Anyway, I'm signed in. So if anybody wants to send me a coffee, there's this place that's oh my gosh, the box and everything, it looks like it's a promotion for my channel. It's got the bee. It's called something Hive. Yeah, Hive. And we get the honeybee latte from there. Yeah, good stuff.
Usual about the Beast of Bodmin Moor is that the usual suspects for shooting these ideas down from a great height are not so clearly decided on this phenomenon. The scientists and rationalists, the biology specialists like me being a giant nerd, and the naturists that are seemingly predisposed to hating and cutting the legs out of every interesting story that falls short of scientific proof, they might just be starting to agree on this one. So strap in for an unusual entry into our long list of cryptid tales that have been absolute nonsense, because this one here might not be as much of an excitement or extreme claims as usual, but one where we might actually be on the side of science and rational thinking, just for a change anyway. So let's head over to jolly old England and see what all the fuss is about. It's not jolly over there, let's be real here. So we'll start with the obvious. Bodmin Moor is located in England and is mainly located in the country of Cornwall towards the southwest of the country. Measuring in at around 80 square miles or 200 square kilometers, it features many prominent peaks as well as areas of natural beauty, but all spread out.
I guess that we need to do it. It's map time, yo. It's mapped. It's the map. It's the map. It's the map. Who's ready for the map? I'm gonna bring it on over. Y'all know I love this. So we are, and it's weird because he says he contrasts Bodmin Moor for Cornwall, and it looks like Cornwall is right in the middle. Like it's in Cornwall, right? And that's the impression I get. Is this not Cornwall? I thought this whole peninsula from way up here all the way down was Cornwall. Is it? Am I wrong? Where are my UK friends at? Anyway, the region's pretty rocky, and I don't want to call it bleak, but let's drop our guy down. Hold on. Where can you drop at, guy? We'll drop you right here. So, let me give you an idea of the kind of landscape we're looking at. It gets Atlantic weather and all these weathered stones. This is really like quintessential moorland, though, right? This is what you think of when you think of a moor. So there's some rolling hills and shallow valleys. Not a heavily contrasted landscape, but a rough landscape. It almost makes me feel like I should see the riders of Rohan come cavalry charging out of the little forest stand or something. That kind of landscape. I would call all of Britain bleak. Cornwall and Barleywall would be better. Yeah, because corn's from North America. Like Cornish hens are from this. This is where Cornish hens come from. And this is the reason why they're so small, because there's not a lot of cover. All right. Hope you all enjoyed this visit to the moorland. Let's get back to the video.
Out over the general area and otherwise filled by endless lengths of non-specific moorland, stretching endlessly as far as the eye can see. Many of these higher peaks can be subject to both early morning mists and fog during the day, making them a prime location for the sorts of encounters that we seem to always be discussing, ones where there are some other elements at play. And this may be going kind of away to explaining why it seems to have always been like there's this explosion in frequency and the regularity of these odd sightings that seem to defy reason. It's kind of increasing. But what we do need to actually talk about from the start is establishing the fact that we will not be limiting our discussion to just these expansive moors and the many incidents that have occurred there. In fact, it would be unfair to do so. In reality, there have been sufficient, reasonably provable, or at least plausible sightings in many other areas in the locality within England that would make it seem unfair to just limit ourselves to exact places. Instead, we'll look at the numerous sightings and encounters that seem to span the entire length of the British Isles and are presently fairly consistently basically just happening through many hundreds of years. The fact remains that encounters with these big cats, the beasts of Bodmin Moor, are not something that has been localized to just one place or one time. We can comfortably go back hundreds of years and find tales of people encountering large, almost predatory cats that were not supposed to be in the local area. And some of them are from people who would arguably, at least, be able to know the difference. Like me, for instance. I'm a cat enjoyer. Dr. Mambo is in the other room screaming for dinner. He's not even medically trained yet. I'm sure I could identify him. One of the first roundly reported encounters was reported in 1820 by a young man named William Cobbett. The man who would grow up to be a respected writer and spoke about his encounter with the beast as a child at a much later date. The encounters listed by normal citizens are many and they span years, but there are a significant amount that are from people in occupations or with personal histories where they would be well accustomed to the normal animals that would be expected and are aware of any differences. The one thing that pushes these encounters above the norm is the fact that the very people that are going on these walks in the moors are the ones that are going to be out in the back and beyond where these encounters are predisposed to happen, and they also just appear to be professionals to a certain degree.
So, you know, like, people see dogs in house cats and mistake them for big cats all the time. I'm not saying there definitely were big cats that were released into the wild in Great Britain in the 70s. The law, there was the courts passed a law about having to pay these big licensing fees and meet all these requirements to have a big cat. And so people with big cats were like, actually, you know what? I don't have a big cat anymore. It died. And they just released it out into the wild. I don't have a big cat anymore. I sold it. Sorry. Or I never even had a big cat. I don't know what you're talking about. This was my dog kennel. Because, I mean, people were keeping them in, like, dog kennels. You know, like keeping a tiger in a dog kennel. It's, it was, and people, there's still counties or places in the U.S. where that happens. It doesn't happen in the U.K. anymore, but like, for instance, the Hannibal, Missouri, near where I grew up, there was a person who had lived out south of town who had big, they weren't dog kennel size. Each of the cats had a tennis court like sized area, wired fence, but they weren't a rescue or anything. He just had them, and I guess it was okay. And if they passed a law, where would those disappear to? There's always the hounds of Bakersfield. That's true.
While this isn't proof in any sort of serious or bulletproof format, it is something that maybe adds credibility to their statements, their assumed measurements, and their ability to notice the difference between a normal local animal and these beasts. If we look into the modern era, whatever we classify that as, probably right now, we could assume that not only would these encounters kind of increase, but the evidence would as well. And to a certain extent, that might just seems to be the case when we review it, at least at the surface level. One source cites the number of sightings between the early 80s and late 90s as floating somewhere between the latter half of the 50s and possibly up into like the beginning portions of the 70s. So somewhere probably between about 58 to 73 sightings. However, cut to the 2000s and in the first 10 years, that number rose close to 200. That feels like a massive increase. One that flies in the face of what is to be expected and what is normal for any paranormal entity or cryptid. They always seem to shy away as technology improves or the amount of people.
So, when you look at the climate, there are two big cats that I think would thrive in the cooler, wetter climate of any of the British Isles, or Ireland, or any of it. Those would be tigers, which could not be mistaken for what's described as the beast of Bodmin Moor, because size and coloration. And there is the mountain lion, right? The cougar, the puma, panthera. No, not panthera. Oh my gosh, shame on me. Puma concolor. Panthera tigris, but would not be mistaken for this. But Puma con color would be okay in that cooler environment. I don't know how well leopards would do. Maybe in Cornwall specifically. Maybe in that area specifically they would be all right. But most of and I mean they do live in colder mountain habitats. For instance, in Afghanistan and all around. There was a subspecies called the Amur leopard that lives in colder, cooler climates, but they're not. They're drier, I guess. A drier climate, a cold, wet climate. I think maybe a cougar would definitely do better, but cougars don't come in black, and these sightings are almost exclusively of black animals. Hive sigh. I wouldn't be surprised if the Romans released a few big cats into Great Britannia. They did hold gladiator battles in Londinium. That's true. Yeah, I think there was a big. That's what drove, like, for instance, the Atlas lion and the Atlas bear towards extinction, because those were the closest access to lions that the Romans had. And yeah, they would have shipped them all over the empire for high-paid entertainment.
People in the area increase. So what is really happening here? And what about some other big cat encounters that also seem to have become prevalent across England, basically along the same time frame? It might be worth looking into some of them and seeing if there's any information there that we can use to color our idea of what we're dealing with here. If we travel about an hour by car from Bodmin Moor and go to Plymouth, we can hear about all the sightings there. Is this the same animal or set of animals? Is the distance close enough to be reasonable? It would really depend on what precisely we believe the beasts of Bodmin Moor might be. The most famous and recent sighting, and another that comes with photographic proof actually, is from 2015.
Wait, that is not the beast of Bodmin Moor. That's the Kellis cat. Not even close to Cornwall. Let me see. I'll pull this up in just a second. Bear with me. I didn't expect to have to do this, but Kellis cat. And we've covered the Kellis cat. We covered it for Halloween a couple years ago. But this is the Kellis cat. It's from Scotland, right? I mean, we can come in and look at the pictures. Let's do that. Look at that. Yeah, and then there's the actual... Oh, well, maybe not. Yeah, here's the picture. Yeah, this one. It's the Kellis cat. Is that all the bigger I'm going to be able to get it? Hell, his is bigger than that. Where was it? Yeah. But this is not the beast of Bodmin Moor.
When a woman named Carol saw a large cat in the garden just outside of Plymouth. Again, in almost strict contravention to the usual cryptid standard, she took a relatively clear and clean picture of this thing. She said that while she thought it may have been a fox at first glance, it definitely appeared larger. It was only after the fact, when looking back over the photographs, that she even realized for herself that it was something that appeared far beyond the normal physical specifications of any wild animal that would be expected.
Yep, it was October 13th, 2023. Demon Cats and Ancient Magic. CrypticCorner, episode 117. I knew it. I knew it. I remember the thumbnail because it's got this really contrasted. I really like this thumbnail. It's a big bad kitty. Check it out. I had fun with that. Binks from Hocus Pocus. Yes, I always wanted Binks to be my sidekick.
In the region. To be honest with you, if anybody remembers the Beast of Gévaudan, maybe there's just big cats that roam Europe. Maybe the Europeans
Is that who we covered with Roanoke? Was that the Beast of Gévaudan? That hasn't been that long ago. Let me see. Gévaudan. Yeah, we covered that a few. Episode 169. Yeah, so we cover
Start doing anything about it. What are you doing over there, Europeans? Because we also have another example of a similar mystery, and that's about a massive paw print that was discovered in 2016, albeit a little further afield in Cornwall. A set of footprints in the mud around 4 inches wide were photographed and measured by traveling tourists. The size of these prints left those that saw not only the images, but the actual prints themselves to believe...
See, to me, this looks like the outline of a dog. I know this is like art, but... And they're trying to give it its own sort of touch and flair too, make it more cursorial looking because it lives in the moorland. Give it sharper ears. Yeah. Have you covered Grindel and his mom yet? No. Are there people that claim to have encountered them? Like, I'm not against covering mythological creatures because people do like people. They're real dragon reports, right? There's real sea serpent reports, kraken reports, and things like that. So, and fairies and everything. But I don't know about Grindel though. What's Grindel's mom's name? I can't remember. But now, I would anticipate that those characters would be more a weird with it topic as part of a alternative history theory, but I don't know. I'd have to look into it. I will, if you send me, and you can do this multiple ways. I'm on, the Hive is on most social media stuff, so you can send stuff to, there's a Facebook group. I'm not real active in there anymore because I'm generally just not active on Facebook. I just use it mostly for advertising for the channel and for my other work that I do. So you want to see pictures of me looking cute? It's there too. But you can send me requests or videos that you think I should cover over there, and I will add them to the polls. You can send me through. I'm on Instagram. You can send me the links on there. You can send me the links. I'm not really on Twitter anymore. I do still have accounts there because of specific group chats, and there's certain people that's the only way I know how to get a hold of them. So I will not be Bugbot's listening to me talking about my other content. So I will not be. I will not be answering new messages on Twitter, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I am on Blue Sky. You can message me on there and send me links. You won't be able to send me videos, but there's also the Discord server. So if someone wants to drop a link to the Hive Discord server, and I'm actually more active on the Transpositions Discord server. That's where I do most of my interfacing with actual people. The Hive Discord server is more just the channel, and if people want to send me stuff too, it's for like sending me art and stuff. There is an ID section there though, so if you need help IDing a critter, then you can go there as well. All right, no more advertising. Back to the show. Hold on. It's so funny to me how people find black cats scary. Me and Binky. My Binky is the absolute sweetest and most loving living creature that has ever lived. LOL. He's so soft and cute and loving. Yeah, I've seen plenty of Binky. If you're not subscribed to Sumami, that's mostly what you get is like adorable cat content and bird content. Sometimes you get a tray full of eggs and veg and mealworms.
That they could have been left by something around the size of a lion. A few months later, a similar encounter would have been experienced in the same area. A driver reported a massive creature leaping out in front of him, and after authorities investigated, they found large paw prints in a nearby clay pit, as well as a deer that had its head removed. For some people, these encounters are a one-off thing, a single encounter that is more than enough to make them believe that they had seen something that isn't quite right. But for others, it seems as though it's...
Sumami's going for that whole witch vibe, and I love it. Let's be witchy bitches together. I'm wearing a dress with mushrooms on it. Hold on, let me show you guys. Look at my cute dress. I love my mushroom dress. It's got mushrooms and butterflies. Yeah, look at that. So cute.
It's a reoccurring theme. In a place called Red Ruth, a local man named Sid, and somebody's like, no, it's Redruth. I'm telling you it's gonna happen. Anyways, a local man named Sid Yates had an encounter with the beast of Bodmin Moor, and his first—
Yeah, buy me a coffee. I'm uncaffeinated at the moment. I've been drinking strawberry watermelon agua fresca this morning, which was really good. BB got it for me because bbsthebomb.com.
reaction was not just the usual surprise and shock. Instead, there seemed to be an element of not again in his retelling. This last sighting was in 2013, and he saw the beast in the early morning. In his own words, he described it as such. It looked a bit like a black Labrador, but it had longer legs and a tail, as well as a flat nose. It was definitely the beast of Bodmin and not a dog. It then crossed the road.
Well, it sounds like a dog if it looked like a... Hold on, I'm going to hear that description again.
Described it as such. It looked a bit like a black Labrador.
It looked like a bit like a black Labrador, but it had longer legs and and tail and a flat nose. So, say when you see a cat, oh, thank you, my unfinished journey. Hail Nero, brie, and mushrooms. Ah! Yeah, I love me some mushrooms. Jay and I are going to start a channel discussing the intersection of politics and religion at some point, though. Yeah, Sumami gets a lot of interaction on the kitty and bird pictures, though. I'm impressed with how much people love to watch them. We have a flock of residential pigeons behind my house that we've often talked about. We've often talked about having them have their own channel. And there's some other birds that hang around too. We got a pair of grackles. We're like the only water source within a few miles. So anyway, back to my review of this video. Yeah, if it looks a bit like a Labrador but has longer legs, it's not looking like a feline. A feline sit low, generally for their size and weight, will sit lower to the ground, with exceptions of like a cheetah. Every other big cat's going to sit lower to the ground in proportion to its body, and seem to have shorter legs, not longer legs than a Labrador. Now, looking like a Labrador with a squished face makes me think of maybe like a Staffordshire Terrier or something. Definitely the beast, though, and not a dog. Okay, Jan.
But it had longer legs and a tail, as well as a flat nose. It was definitely the beast of Bodmin and not a dog. It then crossed the road and got into the old stables near my house and disappeared. I spoke to the other people in the village about it, and they said there was a sighting a few years ago on the other side of the village. Sid, a man in his 70s, would go on to explain that this was the third time that he had spotted the beast in his lifetime. And there are even more general discoveries, sightings, and small pieces of information that all seem to roughly tie together to add to that hint of plausibility to the stories and to the legends, even if none of them are specifically compelling in and of themselves. Homeowners finding dogs' legs.
Well, to me, it sounds like a black bully breed of some kind with a smooshed face. Describes dog. I don't know what it is. It's not a dog, though. I love agua fresca. This is the land of agua fresca down here in West Texas. Oh, and they make them good. We went to the county fair last weekend, and they had a agua fresca spread. From here to there, it was like there was over 10 different flavors, but I don't want to say whether it's 15 or 20. There were a lot, though. A lot to choose from.
legs fully detached, lying in the grass with no sign of an injured pet nearby and really no explanation. Half-remembered stories of Moor walkers encountering animals that seemed a little too big or too confident. Livestock being damaged in a way that farmers and shepherds didn't recognize as a typical or usual predator. Nothing more than vague and general tales.
That's Binky right there, isn't it? That sure looks like the Binky from the from your photos. We could just stick this in with your photos and see if anybody notices.
That all help to bolster the story, especially when viewed alongside the more concrete and solid stories provided. While there are those that naturally are speculative about the nature of these sightings, there is a strong and growing amount of evidence for the fact that there simply cannot be that many people that have gotten these things wrong over the lengths of time that we are discussing. The more obvious theories write themselves, essentially. The truth is that there's a genus or species of large cat that has been roaming this area for multiple hundreds of years and has never been assessed, captured, or identified by science. In fact, I think it's like the Cloudland cat or something like Cloudland cougar. Basically a big cat that we thought was extinct that we've just recently in the last couple of years saw as like scientists and then pictures of it. Well, there you go.
Cloudland cougar. What? Is that what he said? The Cloudland cougar?
We've just recently in the last couple of years saw as like science cat. I think it's like the Cloudland cat or something like Cloudland cougar. Basically a big cat that we thought was extinct that we've just recently in the last couple of years saw as like scientists and then pictures of it. Well, there you go.
What is he talking about? Cloudland? I want to say I want to speculate that he's talking about, I'm doing my meds too. I want to speculate that he's talking about the clouded leopard. Now there's two. I'll drink those. There's two subspecies. Maybe they're species. Oh, hold on. Neophilus. Neophilus is clouded leopard. So we're going to look and see if this is what he's talking about. Hold on. So we're gonna just looking for basic information. So Wikipedia is fine for that, and you can always follow the sources if you have doubts. Okay, so there's subspecies, right? There's it's the genus with two species, and then one species has two subspecies, which is the Sunda cloud leopard, which I think is what he's talking about. Now, I can only assume that this is what he's referring to. That we thought they were extinct and they're not in this area. But I want to say they used to live in a lot broader of an area than they live now. But yeah, this is Neophilus. They are, I mean, calling them big cats, they are closer related to pantherines than felis. Pantherines than felines, I guess would be the way to say that. But they're not within Panthera. They're kind of their own thing that way. No, Leophilus is different than Neophilus. Yeah. They actually had Leophilus on. I'm saying Leophilus. I had Leophilus on Tuesday where we smacked around Cybertrucks. It was fantastic. Back to the video, I guess. Let's do this.
Oh, we thought it was definitely gone, and it definitely wasn't. So, absolutely, some people attribute it to something a little more out of the realms of reality, where it's an animal that surpasses every sort of human expectation, a sort of four-legged boogeyman that haunts the moors and keeps a keen eye on any and all who have the gall and lack of common sense to trespass in their land. But for many locals,
you know, Sumami, I just like one of my friends on Facebook, that another Texas person They're in East Texas, though. They posted a picture from their security camera that had a cougar on it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to boop. Please go boop it so I can boop vicariously through you and record it. But they wouldn't go out and pet the mountain lion. I don't know why. They're so cute. If not friend, then why friend shaped?
This isn't even a theory by this point. This is simply a truth that is known to them and yet to be nailed down by the conventional science. After all, this isn't like many of the other stories that we have covered. Many of the people that have encounters have had plenty of knowledge and experience with the wildlife, especially with the type that would be expected around this area. Most have at least the know-how and the past experience to correctly identify what they would be looking at. And the photographs, of which many exist, certainly seem to show something a little...
Yeah, this is, oh, right, I totally forgot there are Florida panthers here, but they're very shy and never seen a wild one in person. Yeah, most people haven't. There's not very many left. How many Florida panthers are left? Let's check. How many, all I had to type in was how many FL. There's only 200 left in the wild, and they're small, too, they're about the size of a clouded leopard. Which are also smaller. I think they're the smallest subspecies of cougars. Well,
out of the ordinary. Surely enough to make even the most skeptical of people to consider that there might be something more than meets the eye stalking the moors. And I am serious about that, and don't call me Shirley. Strangely, and trust me, this feels weird for me too, this section about the most plausible theories is one that seems to be the easiest to kind of construct. Unlike a lot of other things that we have looked at, there are actually very few that deny the existence of at least something is unusual in the location that has been mentioned. The basic reality is that the number of sightings, especially ones that have persisted through the era to the modern technology that we have, and have actually managed to somehow increase in the age when everyone has a high-powered camera in their pocket at all times, makes me feel like it's a little bit more believable than most. So although it may feel like a default position on anything that is not nailed down and set in concrete by science at this point, it might be just to be disbelieved, this might not be the case for the beasts of Bodmin Moor. An interesting law came into effect in the 1970s in the UK.
Here we go. This is about what I was talking about earlier.
It was called the Dangerous and Wild Animals Act that heavily reduced the capacity of ordinary citizens to hold, possess, or keep any pets that were classified as fitting into this category. While this act completely sidetracked those that owned or held safari parks or zoos, or basically any other iteration if an animal collection was being utilized by the owner and they charged money for the public to view the animals, it caught a surprising number of people in a sort of no man's land. There was a large number of people that held private collections in the UK at that time, ones that had obtained various animals through different means. And
there were a lot of Tiger Kings in
with
the
the
UK.
stroke of a pen.
A lot of Tiger Kings having their own menageries, private menageries in the UK before this 1970s act. Now, did they act like Bond villains with them and use them to terrify and even take out their foes? Probably. I'm sure they did. Isn't that crazy to think that like people were just able to have a tiger walking around your house like a dog until the 1970s in Britain? I mean, even the states in the U.S. now, where you can have exotic animals, generally have some level of regulation that says, hey, you have to have this high of a fence, you have to have this deep of a moat, the animal needs to be contained by this many gates or this type of lock, that kind of stuff. Oh man, you guys really do like Cryptic Corner, don't you? It's my favorite too.
In the passing of a law, which is pretty standard for England. Oh God, I'm glad we separated from them. They were suddenly left in a very awkward position. Anyone who held a big cat as a private pet, but wasn't directly...
Now that definitely looks like maybe baby cakes on the prowl. Like just a black cat. Maybe a large black cat, but does not, to me, look like the outline of a pantherine. and it doesn't look like a puma. Now, if someone told me this was taken in South or Central America, I might say, hey, it could be a jaguarundi, but I think it's a domestic cat.
Or currently involved in the running of a zoo was confronted with a strange ultimatum, and one that many allegedly solved, and really the most, it could be said bizarre, but in the laziest way. One of the most prevalent theories regarding the sudden prevalence of big cats on the
Exactly, Sumami. Someone has to fuck up, then things get taken care of. That one's definitely a Bink Bonk. You think so? The Prowley made me think more of baby cakes, but I think when I think of Binky, think of a derpier, more curled up on your lap purring kind of cat. Did I wake your kitties up? I'm sorry with my mewing. I practice animal sounds like a weirdo. I try to talk to the pigeons. I can't do my trill right now because my throat's dry.
Moors seems to tie in with the beast's seeming inability to comply with the normal routine of sightings.
And speaking of my throat being dry, yeah, you can buy me something to drink on TweetStream. It's really cool. Last week, I got the honeybee latte, and it was delicious.
Off as time passes. People seem to believe that any who held these animals in their private collections made the heartbreaking but ultimately sensible, I guess, decision to release these animals into the wild. And unlike most cases where we look into, it seems as though the science actually backs this one up. There was an official investigation carried out in the mid-1990s where the Agricultural Development Advisory Service...
Oh, remember we did the, was it the Onza? A couple months ago? Let's see, Onza... Yeah, it was the Onza, and we had... Let's see, we had, it was basically looked like a house cat. Yeah, here it is. American Mystery Cat from August 9th, 2024. Alright, hold on. I'm going to pull this over here real quick, because I'm going to do some... I guess Inception. Yeah, where people were seeing. It's our kitty. Definitely a kitty. Here's the kitty. I have my thoughts. Wait. It looks like I shouldn't launch it here. Look, it's just a kitty. No, make it big. Make it big, Bree. Damn it. Here, we'll do it this way. Come on, Bree, get it together. There you go. Much better, much clearer image. Okay. That's somebody's cat. So we got a black cat. Looks like it's about, maybe 30 feet up the side of the mountain there, crawling among the slag. Yeah. So it's not uncommon for people to mistake just a regular old house cat for a beast.
Analyzed all the evidence available and around the area, but essentially realized that they could not prove definitively that there was or wasn't a number of big cats roaming the area of Bodmin Moor. This was their official conclusion. It was accepted at the start of the investigation that it would never be possible to prove that such an animal or animals did not exist, but it was believed that if they did...
Does he not eat the yolk, or does he not eat the white? Which do your birds prefer? You just need to tell him. You need to put your foot down and say, listen, Flotsam, you aren't going to get any more eggs at all if you can't eat all your eggs. If you can't, yeah.
Hard evidence would be forthcoming. People helpfully supplied material for the investigation and reported sightings, suspected livestock kills, and injuries. No verifiable evidence for the presence of big cats were found, but there were only 4 suspected livestock kills reported in nearly 6 months, none of which gave any indication of the involvement of anything other than native animals and dogs. There is no significant threat to livestock from a big cat on Bodmin Moor. Despite this, though, interestingly, there would be some DNA analysis carried out within the last year or so on another piece of fur found in a different country. I'm going to try this. Gloucestershire. Cockaboo-boo-pee-pee-shire. They had been suffering their own strange
Cockapoo-pee-pee-shire? They say Gloucestershire?
sightings and livestock injuries. The scientists that analyzed this genetic material left behind stated that it was almost categorically of the same form of big cat. That statement from the team is as follows. The DNA cut from the hairs caught on a barbed wire fence where there had been some unusual predatory activity. It has taken us 5 years for the production team to find such evidence and film its journey from collection to analysis. Some people of Gloucestershire and Britain have described what appears to be black leopards for decades, so a leopard DNA result from the black hair sample is unsurprising. This is not the first such DNA result and is unlikely to be the last.
So when they talk about this, though, you got to remember that the other DNA results, a lot of them have turned out to be from discarded leopard skin rugs, and I think they've had skulls that were found that were from leopard skin rugs because they leave the skull and the head on there.
There's a great deal of secondary evidence for these cats, such as consistent witnesses reports, but hard evidence like DNA is difficult to get. So the contribution from this documentary is very helpful. Collecting such evidence from the local people, farmers, and landowners is essential. Citizen science like this will hopefully help us learn about the Bagheera-type big cats, which may be quietly naturalized.
And let's make no mistake, people still do wear real leopard fur clothing, right? Coats and stuff like that. So, especially, I don't want to say especially, but like rich people. Even though they can't have the real animals in their menageries anymore, they still will wear the furs. This is real panther fur or whatever, And I don't know what that would be doing in that coat out in the bush, but that's definitely more likely than an actual big cat being out there. But I digress.
Here. So there you have it. The sightings and encounters with the beasts of Bodmin over the centuries that seem to persist over hundreds of years. As always, please come forward with your own thoughts and opinions on the case in the comment section below, but this is as much as we'll say. Unlike the usual times when we are defending and boxing off low-key
I think it's Gloucester, isn't it? Just Gloucestershire? I don't think you say Shire. You think you just say sure when it's run together like that. Gloucestershire. But I have a thick American accent too. I can't think of anybody who has a more embedded American accent than myself. I'm from the middle of the country initially, so where all the accents come together.
Attempts to make this appear like something it's not, it's a bit different. The most recent and up-to-date information seems to back the case. The most cutting-edge science is on our side, and the factual and real evidence provided by those that are usually naysaying or criticizing from the wings is actually the most up-to-date and compelling evidence that we've got. And it seems more than in most other cases that there is certainly something a little out of the ordinary wandering the moors around Bodmin and further afield. So until next time, please like and subscribe for more stories.
Yeah. All right. So that was Roanoke Tales. I'll give him a like. Pretty good breakdown. I wish they would have talked about the leopard rugs, though. I do. I think that would have been a good approach to add a little bit of skepticism to the story. But obviously they had a certain angle that they were going through in their telling, and I get that. I understand that, but what do you guys think? Do you think the beast of Bodmin Moor was Gloucestershire? Yeah, there you go, Gloucestershire. I like that. I think there's some inflections in the ta part. I think maybe, but I could be wrong too. It's like something like that. I can't do it. So stupid American tongue. Anyway, yeah. What do you guys think though? I do believe they even shot some of these big cats that were released into the wild. So there's physical evidence that these animals did exist as released captives, but that they would survive from the 70s to the 2000s without maintaining a breeding population without having regular interaction with humans on the moorlands that are open with no cover. I think that's suspicious, especially because it's, it's one of the most populated islands in the world. We're talking about here. Talking about millions of people. I know it's a more rural part of the island, but big cats in general and pumas as well require huge expanses of land to be able to thrive and to occupy with enough food just to survive, yet alone to raise litters of offspring. But I digress. What do you think? I want to know how my hive feels about this beast. So, put your commentary down below. What do you think we're looking at here? Honestly, it's to me, it's like a combination of folklore, historical precedent where big cats were released, and sightings of of dogs that are behaving in some type of way that makes people think they're not dogs. But I'm open for all your opinions. Now I'm going to take an intermission here, but I want to tell my Cryptic Corner crew to please be kind, take care, and we will see you next time. All right. Now, live from the Hive, people. Don't go anywhere, because the show's not over. This is just the first segment, and there's more show to come, so don't leave me. I need you for validation. All right. I will be right back. I'll be right back with you. I'm going to run an intermission, and then, yeah.
Now gather round, children. I'll tell you a tale about valiant squid and some bloodthirsty whales. A battle that rages deep in the blue sea, far from the surface, from you and from me. Squid and whales in the battle of the century. Squid and whales were determined to conquer the sea. Suction cups and giant beaks versus dorsal fins, blubber and meat. Some giant squid with giant eyes versus sperm whales of massive sizing. Suckers, hooks, and tentacles against the Earth's largest mammals. The mighty titans of the sea in battle for their destiny. And the cephalopods sing. Squid and whales, 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 squid and whales.
Hello, hello, my beauties and bees. It's time for some weirdness. I hope you're here for it because I am excited to cover the fantastical and fabulous world of fart magic. I do cover a lot of woo-woo stuff, like alternative history and that kind of thing, where there were alleged sorcerers. There there were alleged spellcraft casters and warlocks and things in these alternative histories. Tartaria is one of those, and I have the Knights of Tartaria on my poll right now, but fart magic just has an overlap with that without actually being that. So we're returning to this channel that I'm just infatuated with at this point, called Mind Unveiled. And recently they released, like, look here, there's vampires and dragons, secret occult powers, and that's Tartaria stuff. Origin of Irish civilizations. I guess mud flood. This is where we had the Cabbage Patch Kids that we covered just recently. That got super freaking weird. So, today, oh goodness, drink this energy drink I had left over from last night that I used to mix a shot with to take my meds. And now it's gurgling up. Oof. But they actually brought this to my attention, the fart magic. Farting Unveiled, the lost art of flatulist fart magic and the fart wars. Fart wars, y'all. We're gonna do this. We're getting into this farting. Yes.
What's up, guys?
Every time I watch one of his videos, I have to do that. I'm trying to get him to use me as his intro lady, so that he can hear. Ryan knew fart magic existed. Yes. So I'm going to put together a fart coven. I need 4 volunteers for my fart coven. We're going to make stuff happen. Are you singing the dance magic song from The Labyrinth? Oh. Jump magic. They could have added fart magic to that song. You fart in your general direction. Now we're doing. We watched that recently. We watched that just a couple weeks ago. We watched Quest for the Grail.
Okay, so I know the title of this video seems kind of jokey. And I mean, sure, it's kind of funny. But this is a really weird subject in history that I haven't really seen anyone make a video about.
Ooh, I like this loot. I've been talking to Ben about getting a loot because we're going to go to the Ren Fair.
It's strange that this was actually such an important art form in ancient and medieval times. So while it is kind of humorous, it's also a fascinating history that not too many people know about. It's not supposed to be a super serious video, and I have a big project I'm working on right now.
Are those fart goblins attacking this guy? What's going on? What's this got to do with farts? I need to know. Is there something fartastic going on here? Is this Saint Gaseous? And he used his fart to dispel demons from the church. Tell me the story. Tell me the Tartarian lore about yeah. We're gonna go with Saint Gaseous. Yeah, this is Saint Gaseous. Yeah, he ruled for 10,000 years until he was vanquished by Titan Uranus. And then there came the era of the peaceful era of the Titans' rule that we live in today.
But in the meantime, I figured this would be something interesting to cover for a small video. So yeah, this is kind of the history of farting.
Like look at this old art. what the hell? It's like, now this seems like a political cartoon. It's basically talking about these world leaders sniffing each other's farts is the impression I get from this. But Lord Fartquart.
And I think it kind of exposes the silliness of the history that we've been told. Well, let's...
Now, this looks like cherubby-like people doing Greek wrestling to me, and that's what Greek wrestling was. You put your enemy's junk in your face. Mother of God, the fart fetish has been with us since medieval times. I'm sure there's a poot or two in the garden of earthly delights or desires, whatever its name. This is what we've all been waiting for today, right? We've been waiting for the fart art. I kind of wish I'd been pausing for each piece so we could discuss it. I'm going to stop right here for a second. I'm going to say, put a let's say a 1 in the chat if you want me to go back to the art pieces we've seen so far. There hasn't been too many, but we can go back and look at them real quick. But otherwise, we should just continue on to in the snoot. I'm going to get this off the
start
screen,
with ancient
though.
times, or what we're told is from ancient
They've been lighting their farts since ancient times. People have been lighting their farts since ancient times, too. Look at that. Not a new concept.
times. But apparently, farting was a really big deal.
Do you ever think like if people believe that things need to be natural, that they would just harvest farts for fuel? Methane. Oh, we need to go back. Okay. Everybody wants to go back. All right. I'm going to mute him though, because we don't need to rehear that. And we're at a minute 10, so we can just pop through the images. Okay. So, this also looks like political satire, but this does remind me of the Holy Grail scene that we were just discussing. And this is how you enter the kingdom of heaven. These are the angels of the Lord announcing your arrival at the pearly gates. I think we used to have this guy as part of our Breeze Bestiary intro way back in the day, but because we would talk about medieval art and this depiction of different critters, but it's expanded a lot since then. But look at our homie playing the lute. I think we did talk about this one a bit. As far as this one goes, I don't know what this has to do with farts. Maybe the gesture is farting. I don't know. Okay, no more farts there. And then we get to Saint Gaseous, and then yeah. Okay, I think we're all caught up.
Philosophers writing on it and emperors making laws on it. It was literally an art form. St. Augustine, one of the most important Christian philosophers, commented in his 5th century work, The City of...
Maybe that was St. Augustine that we looked at earlier. Maybe I thought it was St. Gaseous, but it was St. Augustine. Augustine.
God, discussing, quote, people who could produce at will, without any stench, such rhythmical sounds from their fundament that they appear to be making music even from that quarter, end quote. He claimed to have seen...
So, what this is telling me is that there was a lost musical art form that humans had as late as the classical era of Christian philosophy, where I could have had a career as a musician, and that was lost on me as whatever evolutionary pathway that led to the musical farts it no longer exists in humanity. Or does it, and they're just underground because it's shamed, like left-handedness, people, like, once they destigmatized it, more people came forward is yes, I'm a left-handed person. Maybe the fart musicians are out there and they're in hiding because of the stigma. So I'm putting a band together. I play many musical instruments. So if you are secretly a fart musician who's been hiding in the shadows for too long, please come join my band. Obviously, we'll play outside, but please come join my band, and we will. Yeah, I don't want. I know there's people that sell their farts on OnlyFans and stuff. But that's what I want to hear is people that are making the music that St. Augustine's talking about, where they're like doing, I don't know if it's like a rhythm, like a or if it's like a trumpet sort of sound, like a something like that. But I don't know. I need to know if these people are still out there in the world that St. Augustine met.
Seen someone in such control of his backside that he could break wind at will and follow the tone of verses spoken to him. I'm telling you, this gets extremely weird. But back in the 1st century AD, the Roman Emperor Claudius actually made it legal to fart at banquets because he was worried people might hurt themselves trying to hold it in. Like, imagine being in ancient Rome around 41 AD, and your emperor is just like, you know what, guys, let it rip. It's much healthier that way. So in ancient...
That is true, and in a lot of cultures it was a compliment if someone served you food if you were gassy, because it meant you ate it so fast that you swallowed a bunch of air, was the idea. But it's actually your gut flora process and producing the gas that comes out. So, and that's why it's a different consistency depending on what you eat. I don't need to explain to you guys what your gas is, but yeah, it's not actually you swallowing air and releasing it. I mean, to some extent, that's part of the process, but yeah.
ancient times, farting wasn't just something people awkwardly pretended didn't happen. It was a big deal. Like, we're talking about farts literally changing the course of history. Seriously. Back in 569 BC.
Oh, I like that. Look at this. Bro's blasting his chariot forward with his gas. Or is that supposed to just be the dust kicked up by the chariot? Is that just supposed to be the dust kicked up by the chariot, though? Maybe just one person then. Oz knows someone who does it. What? Oz knows a fart musician?
A single fart helped overthrow a kingdom. The Greek historian Herodotus wrote about how King Apries of Egypt sent...
And we all know how trustworthy Herodotus was, right? Oh, Herodotus, you silly, silly boy. He said some crazy shit. Dude was tripping the whole journey. Dude was tripping. I don't know if he stopped by the poppy fields before he took off, or if he was sampling some different local medicines as he traveled around the expanses of the Mediterranean and beyond. What he was doing, but oh boy, saw some crazy shit that no one ever saw again.
his general Amasis to deal with some rebels. Instead, the rebels were like, hey, you should be king instead, and crowned Amasis. When the king sent his advisor Ptah to sort things out, Amasis just farted and told him to carry that back to Apries. King Apries didn't take this disrespect well. He had his message...
Hot damn, dude. Here, take this back to you. He could have farted in a water bladder or something and tied it off.
messenger's nose and ears cut off, which turned out to be a pretty bad move. The Egyptian people were so outraged by this that
Hey, Mac computer scientist, stay safe. Leave. See, there's this dichotomy here where do you leave your phone? It's best to leave your phone to keep from being identified with it and positioned with it, but it's also nice to be able to have some way to contact people. So maybe carry some. Are payphones still a thing in your city? They're not. There's hardly any around anymore, which is part of population control too. Now we don't have public phones anymore where we can call for support. Anyway, just be safe, babe. Be safe.
they eventually turned against Apries, tore him apart in a mob.
And if you need to use your gas to escape a sticky situation, remember you got fart magic on your side.
Nemesis end up ruling Egypt for the next 44 years, all because of a fart. That's not something they teach you in history class. But wait, it gets even wilder.
Yes, Porpoise and Mad Computer Scientist are the same person. I think MCS is the newer name that they want to go by, and Porpoise is sort of the trolley name that they use for trolling people. I don't know though. They can explain their own name choices. I go by Bumblebee, and when I'm trolling people, I go by Denishoven the Denisovan, or Red Flags the Clown, things like that.
44 AD, a single fart in Jerusalem led to one of the deadliest incidents in ancient history. According to Josephus, who wrote about it in the Jewish War, Josephus describes an anti-Semitic Roman soldier who dropped his pants before a crowd of Jews celebrating Passover. The guy, quote, pulled back his garment and, cowering down after an indecent manner, turned his breech to the Jews and spake such words as you might expect upon such a posture. End quote.
Spake such words, huh? Talking out of his ass? Is that where that term comes from then? Is that what we're dealing with? Spake. I'm going to start using that. I spake words. How do you describe it? Let me replay that again.
Words as you might manner, turned his breech to the Jews, and spake such words as you might expect upon such a posture.
And spake such words you might expect upon the posture. Yes.
End quote. Which led to people starting to throw stones at the soldiers. The situation escalated so quickly that when the Roman army showed up, about 10,000 people died in the chaos, mostly from being trampled while trying to escape. So literally, a fart led to the death of 10,000 people in the first century. Apparently, the oldest joke ever recorded is a fart joke from ancient Samaria around 1900 BC.
That's true too. Yeah, I know. I've heard this before. Well, I should say I've heard that it's true. I don't know that it's true. But I want to think I heard it on Digital Hammurabi, which I tend to trust. But
it goes, something which has never occurred since time immemorial. A young woman did not fart in her husband's lap. The philosopher Pythagoras believed the soul, pneuma, was breath. And because a fart was a sort of breath, as he was struggling with the mechanics of trigonometry, it was...
Ooh, I know I'm supposed to be talking about farts and stuff here, but I want to admire these ancient and unique instruments here. I love this harp. I would love to have a harp like this size. This little hand harp with, a few dozen strings on it or so. I play strings. I play pluck strings, so this is right up my alley. I would love to have a harp, but there's also this big sucker right here. I don't know what this, it looks like this is a large harp. I don't know what kind of harp either one of these is. I'm not I should say either. There's more than two. There's another one right here that's horseshoe shaped. And I'm going to say that the people that are kneeling are the ass choir. I think it's a liar. I think you're a liar, right-handed Sith. How you feel about that? No, maybe it's a liar. This big one's a harp, though. I don't know what type of harp. Well, a lyre is a type of harp too. So, I'm gonna assume the people kneeling are doing the ass choir though, and making the beautiful butt music.
He was also concerned that if a person pushed hard enough, they might fart out his or her soul. And get this, some ancient cultures even had fart gods. The Innu people of Canada worshipped Mashishkapeu.
If anybody wants to do a D&D character that's an acolyte of Matshish Kupil, that's kind of badass. There's been a few characters in video games, in like tournament fighter games, that had fart powers. The main one I remember was Chaos from Primal Rage. He was a big, sort of like baboon-like, ape-like stink monkey. And his powers were doing gross stuff, but he had a fart, and it was like a puff of green steam that he blew at you. And then he had, and he was a god. He was like the god of chaos and filth or something like that. He had a power where I don't know if it was a fatality or not, but a power where he peed on you, and it got cut from the game. But there's a character in Mortal Kombat that does that stuff too. I think it's the drunk guy that farts. Yeah. Ass, lyre, butt, trumpet, toot and lute. What other instruments you got? Yeah, I like a lute and a lyre. And Ben needs a full-size panpipe. I should make an instrument, speakeasy instrument ensemble wish list for the stuff we need for that for our little jam room.
Literally the fart man, who they considered one of their most powerful spirits. Every fart was believed to be a message from this god, and they actually had special interpreters to explain what each fart meant. Then they
Oh my gosh, maybe I should open up a business doing that. I will interpret your gas. Please eat a high protein meal the night before your visit. And I will listen to the secret message from the god.
There's the story of Crepitus, the Roman god of farting.
There
Now,
he is
mainstream
again.
historians will tell you that this
Oh,
was
they
just
weren't-
made up farting.
See, we thought that they were fleeing in fear, but they're actually participating in a gaseous ritual with cherubs assisting them. Look at the guys up in the sky. Poot, 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 poot.
Now, mainstream historians will tell you that this was just made up by Christian writers to mock pagan religions. But it's interesting. The story goes that Romans would actually make libations and offerings to this god. According to accounts, the Athenians saw farts as good omens. While
That's not a fart, that's a poop. And I guess a healthy poop is a good omen. It means you're healthy. So they're not wrong.
a Roman priest would curse them. The Emperor Claudius supposedly even had Crepitus at his dinner table. Whether or not Crepitus was real, it's fascinating that this god of farts was important enough to be written about by major historical figures like Voltaire and Flaubert. And we know that the Romans had gods
Yeah, but Voltaire wasn't above writing satire either. So, I mean,
for everything else. They had gods of toilets, doorways, even gardens. So a god of farting doesn't seem that far-fetched. There is a scene from Aristophanes' The Cloud.
that soft serve ain't healthy. I mean, it looks like the poop emoji. It looked like the ancient poop emoji. So I'm assuming that was just the normal depiction of a turd. Yeah, it should be more like obviously more sausage shaped and denser, but not everybody got enough roughage in their diet back then. If you want to fart more, don't rinse your beans before eating them. Oh, Jur's got farting advice for us. Blow out your O-ring. Ouch. No, don't do that. Family. Yeah, I remember that episode of Family Guy. Looks like Dairy Queen.
Clouds, in which Athenians compare thunder to the sound of celestial flatulence. So perhaps there is a truth to this. The ancient Greeks actually took farts pretty seriously as divine messages. There's this old Homeric hymn about the god Hermes where he farts while Apollo is holding him, and it's described as a hard-worked belly serf, a rude messenger. Basically a divine omen.
I would say so. A divine omen from his godly flatulence.
And this wasn't just a joke. It was divination, which was a huge deal in ancient Greece. And apparently, farts were...
I think that we should bring this back. That we should open a fart divination like reading shop. Like, come get your farts read, because everybody's reading palms, consulting the crystal, doing tarot. Nobody's doing fart divination anymore, and it's a shame. It's quite a shame.
For one way the gods could send messages. This is literal fart magic.
The pungent piccolo, nice. The vertical harmonica, Aunt Jer's got more coming at us. Yeah. Thunderous ass clap.
There were those who practiced the reading of flames, a method known as pyromancy, while others listened to and channeled demons contained within their bellies. This was a form,
which is really close to the psychic surgery, which is also on the poll, and will be on the poll next week, as well as any topic requested by you guys for this segment. So don't be afraid to voice your opinion on what kind of weird stuff you want me to cover here, because I'm branching out in this segment. It used to just be about like ancient civilizations and religious claims and stuff like that. But you send me anything weird like this, and we will look into it and see. Because humans are weird. We have a lot of weird folklore, and I'm here for it. I especially like finding out when there's like truth to some part of the folklore, but like, can you really tell someone's health from their consistency of their flatulence? There's probably ways that can be done, right? From stool samples, you can definitely tell a lot about a lot of things about people or animals. So scatology is a real science.
Form of ancient divination. It seems this is why Egyptian priests wouldn't eat beans. According to Herodotus, they were trying to avoid any unexpected divine messages, if you get what I mean. So moving into medieval times, farting started to transform from something religious or magical into an actual respected form of entertainment. And when I say respected, I mean you could literally get rich and famous from it. But before we get to the professional
lifestyles of the rich and the famous, right out of their anus, it's not real.
Farters, we need to talk about this weird farting monster.
Finally, we get a fart monster. We have had fart gods and fart saints and fart priests, fart prophets, but now we have a fart monster.
There's this creature called the Bonacon that shows up in manuscripts from the 1300s. But supposedly it was actually first written about by Pliny the Elder way back in ancient Rome. They described it as this bizarre bull-like creature with a horse's mane and these totally useless horns that curved inward. But what made it unique was its signature defense mechanism. Apparently, this thing could blast its pursuers with burning poop and fart.
It kind of looks like an ovid.
That could scorch everything within 3 acres. We're talking about being able to shoot this stuff over 100 Roman feet. which is like 31 meters. Medieval monks were so fascinated by this farting beast.
I mean, I don't want to speculate, but I'm almost certain this is from medieval depictions that this is a Winzet, which is the European cousin to the buffalo.
That they kept including it in their bestiaries. They have all these depictions of hunters getting blasted by the Bonnekin's fiery defense system. What I find strange is there's all this information on the importance of farts from ancient times and even an ancient farting beast. And then we don't hear anything about it for 1,000 years. Nothing at all on farting until around the 1200s. Now all of a sudden, farting has become the height of entertainment. So yeah, this gets into Roland.
Yeah, let me real quick. I got the Bonnekin pulled up here, and yeah, as far as and there's a reason why I thought that it was. Yeah, the term is derived from the Greek bonosos, which means bison. Yeah, which looks like this. Strabo, when describing the zebu at the festival in India, used the term bonosus. Yeah, so it's used loosely for wild bovids, but I mean a zebu looks like that, right? And a bison looks like that. They have things in common, but yeah, they do produce a lot of methane. He's not wrong. But, all right, we're gonna get into Roland the Farter, hero of the gaseous empire. He has this French name, Roland de la Fartière. I like that better, Roland le Fartière. Yeah, we're gonna use that.
The farter? He was a professional farter who performed for King Henry II of England in the 12th century. His signature move was this combination of a jump, a whistle, and a fart. And apparently he was so good at it that the king gave him a whole manor house and 100 acres of land in Suffolk. Imagine being so good at farting that you get a mansion for it.
Yeah, I mean, we need to bring this back. If there are any exotic farters out there, the Hive wants to know.
Okay, are we going to question why this was entertaining to a king during these times? It's just strange that medieval nobles actually loved crude humor. The cruder the better. We're talking about a time when people would pay to watch mystery plays where devils would run around farting at the audience. Supposedly this profession was widespread in Ireland throughout medieval times. For example, a tradition of 8th century Irish records lists brogadore, or farters, as those who held retainers in courts. Roland's contemporaries,
like, they were farting on flames and stuff and making them flare up too. I've been inpatient in enough hospitals to be familiar with talking about my bowel activity, like talking about the weather. Like, for real. Yeah, Dave, there was a video of that kid at the zoo getting covered in it. The hippo doing the... Yeah. Weaponized feces.
a group of Irish farters called Brigatori, allegedly occupied a table at the banquet hall of the High King of Ireland. But farting wasn't just for laughs in medieval times. It was actually a powerful form of political protest. Geoffrey Chaucer, one of the most important writers of the time in the 14th century,
You hear that, people out there protesting? Don't be afraid to weaponize your gas.
wrote the scene where an angel shows a friar around hell, and when the friar is feeling smug about not seeing any other friars there, Satan literally opens his ass and 20,000 friars come swarming out like bees from a hive. In his Summoner's Tale, there's this old man who gets revenge on a greedy friar by saying, "Hey, I've got some..."
Friars live in the devil's ass. And that's wild.
Something to show you. And when the friar reaches behind the old man expecting to find some money, he gets a fart so powerful that Chaucer says no horse could have matched it. When the friar goes to complain, someone suggests he should share this gift fairly by having 12 friars kneel around a cartwheel with their noses at the spokes while he farts in the middle. That's kind of detailed.
Wow.
Even Shakespeare couldn't resist a good fart joke. In Two Gentlemen of Verona, there's this scene where a guy gives his crush a dog named Crab as a gift. The issue is Crab has some serious digestive issues. The dog ends up farting under the Duke's dinner table so bad that everyone wanted the dog whipped. But the servant actually takes the blame for the fart to protect the dog.
You don't whip a dog for farting. That's terrible. If your dog has digestive problems, you need to adjust his diet. You need to whip him. You can't control. We had a little dog that sometimes if she ate the wrong thing, she would get diarrhea, and she'd whimper while she was pooping. It was so sad. It's like, oh, does it burn, sweetie? And she thought she was going to get in trouble.
In Shakespeare's Henry IV, Part 1, there's a scene where a character named Owen Glendower tries to make himself sound important by claiming that when he was born, the earth shook and the heavens were on fire. Another character, Harry Hotspur, responds by telling him that these weren't actually signs of his greatness. The earth was just sick and farting that day. Shakespeare writes this in poetic language about unruly wind trapped in the earth's womb, basically turning a fart joke into elegant poetry.
Like, maybe thunder is the farts of the gods. Has that ever been a thing? Should have went with that.
The medieval criticism of religious corruption through farting actually helped spark major religious change. After Martin Luther was excommunicated from the Catholic Church in 1521, he fought back in a pretty unique way.
Did Martin Luther fart at the church?
He commissioned a series of protest artworks called The True Depiction of the Papacy, and he had this artist create some interesting woodcuts. One of them is called The Birth and the Origin of the Pope, which showed a female demon literally pooping out a pope. Then in 1545, there's this other one called The Papal Belvedere, showing German peasants farting at Pope Paul III in his official documents. During the years
Is that the farts making a burst into flames too?
1641 to 1660, when Puritans were basically trying to kill all fun in England by closing theaters and banning public dancing, people found creative ways to rebel. John Playford started this secret singing club in 1649 that was actually raising money for out-of-work musicians. One of their
Yeah, see, like, boycotting fun. Puritans. But, yeah, we'll see how the farts tie into it.
most popular songs was called My Lady and Her Maid, which was all about farting. So yeah, while the Puritans were trying to make everything seriously and godly, these educated musicians were literally having secret meetings to sing about farts. According to John Aubrey's writings, Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, once accidentally let out a huge fart.
I talk about this every time I see depictions of people from this era. I absolutely hate these big floofy collars that they wore. Like, it's funny that, you know, I mean, this is like was like the upper class kind of way to dress, but I actually like the ironically enough the Puritan look much better with the wide brim hats and stuff than these Sir Walter Raleigh kind of ornate collars that look ridiculous. Like, what's the goal here? I don't know. I'm being judgmental about something that was a fashion statement centuries ago, but I also wore, Jinkos when I was a kid, so, whatever.
Fart while bowing to Queen Elizabeth I. He was so embarrassed that he left the country for 7 years. When he finally came back, Queen Elizabeth supposedly welcomed him by saying, "My lord, I had forgot the fart." In the early 1700s, Thomas Durfee and Jonathan Swift specifically
Why is that not like a famous quote from her?
used farting in their writing to mock women. Durfee even wrote this infamous 37-verse poem called The Fart about trying to find out who farted in front of the Queen. Later, Swift wrote a whole pamphlet called The Benefit of Farting Explained, under the fake name Don Ferdinando Puff Endorsed. Unlike early
I like that name, Don Ferdinando Puffendorf, professor of bum bath in the University of Krakow. Oh my goodness, that's good stuff.
earlier fart humor that was meant to be funny or rebellious, these writers were saying that women's opinions were as worthless as hot air. But what I find to be wild,
Yeah, I don't like that. I mean, you can seriously go fuck yourself about that. But yeah, I like the puns and stuff. I like the old timey humor. But holy shit, I didn't know it was gonna get cringy.
is some of the most beautiful and expensive books from medieval times. I mean, we're talking about religious manuscripts that took incredible skill and money to make, are absolutely filled with fart jokes in the margins. These weren't just random doodles either. Making these books were serious business. They had to turn animal skin into paper, use gold leaf, and spent months creating just one book. But around the edges of these holy texts, there are naked bishops farting, people playing trumpets from both ends, and apes blowing wind instruments into each other's butts.
Oh my gosh, that's that trumpet thing. I imagine there's probably a market for that. Oh my goodness.
There's actually a whole musical connection with farting here. The Latin word bombus meant fart, which is why they called certain wind instruments bombards. And flatus, which gave us the word flatulence, was used in music to describe breathing into instruments. When you think about it, the whole concept of wind instruments might have started with people trying
Wind instruments and farting. I gotta tell Ben about this. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Because Ben has at least 2 saxophones. I'm sorry, Ben.
trying to imitate or replicate different kinds of, well, natural wind sounds. The connection between the mouth pipe and the other end was so strong that medieval writers like Dante literally described demons making trumpets of their butts. Even the great artist Hieronymus Bosch got in on this in his famous painting, The Garden of Earthly Delights. In the Hell panel, he shows sinners being tortured with bum notes, including one poor guy whose butt is being used as a musical score by a frogman hybrid.
Oh.
So,
Look at
okay,
that.
we're told that these medieval monks were copying religious texts.
I can't read sheet music. I shouldn't say I can't read it. I have to transpose it to tablature before I can play it on anything. Yes, even piano. I have to turn it into tabs for piano. I'm not even joking. Yeah, and I have my own tablature system. I can only play melody on piano, by the way. I don't want to pretend like I'm like a good piano player. Usually if somebody plays the bass end of things, I can do the melody. I'm not real good at the bass end of things on keys, just because my hands aren't adapted to the positions. They're adapted to these positions. But I try.
Text. But what's with all the fart jokes? They actually taught these dirty Latin words in school. There are these old textbooks where kids had to learn words like torde in thy teethe, turd in your teeth, right alongside their regular lessons.
Turd
So
in your
next time someone
teeth.
tells you
What?
people in medieval times were all serious and religious, just remember they were literally teaching kids fart words in Latin class. Interestingly, Japan actually has an incredible history of fart artistry going back to the
Japanese fartistry. I'm into some Japanese fartistry. Let's moving from Europe to the Far East. Let's go.
Kamakura era between the 12th and 14th centuries. The most famous of these early performers was Fukutomi no Oribe, known as the King of Farts, who made his fortune performing fart dances for aristocrats. There's a story about him and his neighbor
I feel like I could start a whole circus of people doing this. Maybe we could even put like glitter powder and stuff.
Toda, who got jealous of Oribe's success and tried to learn the art of professional farting. Well, it didn't end well. Toda took some mysterious pills from Oribe and ended up having a very messy, very public accident at a nobleman's house. But
That actually happened on an episode of Jackass I watched when I was a kid too. Johnny Knoxville has a cousin who supposedly can fart on command, and he tried, like they did the show and he tried, and he ended up pooping on camera.
it was during the Edo period when farting really became an art form in Japan. The streets of Tokyo had these shows called misemono, where you could see all kinds of unusual performers, including a guy known as the Mist Descending Flower Blossom Man in 1774.
The art here, I cannot, oh my gosh. How am I supposed to move forward from this with my life?
This performer became famous for taking in
I like this guy down here's face. This guy right here. I can see my mouse. Yeah, this guy, his face. None of them look impressed. They all look disturbed.
air and releasing it in what scholars actually describe as modulated flatulent arias. Like this guy was literally doing musical compositions with his farts. The Japanese were so into fart-based entertainment that they created these art scrolls called higasen, literally fart battles. These were elaborate battle scenes where people were using
They blur out the genitalia. Mommy has a shield, a fart shield.
using farts as weapons, blasting each other through walls, uprooting trees, and sending animals flying through the air. People
So, like, this reminds me of, like, in a way, like the longevity stuff with the Eastern art.
would try to defend themselves with fans and face masks against these wind attacks. They even showed people trapping farts in bags to use as
Using a, yeah, hold on. I'm gonna do this because I'm not good at popping it open, but I have a fan. Wah! So don't even come at me with your fart attacks, because I got you covered, bitch. Wah! I need to work on that. It's kind of sexy, huh? Yeah, so you can't even get me with your fart attacks because I'm armed.
weapons later. While some people have tried to say that these were political statements about foreigners, they were really just a part of Japan's long tradition of bathroom humor and art, dating all the way back to the 12th century. In the late 1800s,
The last fart
Joseph
bender.
Pujol, better known as La Petoman, which literally means the maniac farter, became France's most unusual celebrity
Le Pitoman.
entertainer. After discovering as a young swimmer that he could draw water into his rectum, he learned he could do the same with air and control its release with remarkable precision.
Holy shit. The most holy.
Unlike other farters, Pujol wasn't actually passing gas, he developed a technique where he would inhale air through his mouth and somehow channel it to be released through his rectum. Performing at the famous Moulin Rouge in Paris, he would appear in a formal tuxedo and treat his act like a sophisticated musical performance.
Oh, thank you, Ember, for the super chat. Love you, baby girl. For generations, artists have dreamed of drawing the invisible. Only the greatest fartists in history have ever managed this miracle.
His repertoire included playing songs like La Marseillaise, imitating cannon fire and thunderstorms, blowing out candles from several yards away.
Love you, Ember. I can't say it enough. Ass breathing, yeah. We can learn to do this, and it sounds like water is where you learned at to control those muscles. We might be able to get this fart band off the ground. Again, I need at least 4 of you all to be in my fart band, as we saw in that earlier piece of art, which I probably won't be able to find again, with people with all the harps and stuff, and then there was yeah, I'm not gonna dig back for it, but there was the 4 people kneeling with the farts. What I'm understanding is, like, in a parlor setting, which is what harps are. Harps are a parlor instrument, right, for the most part, except for the really big ones. So in a parlor setting, you need at least 4 fartists if you're gonna have any kind of strings. And I play strings, so I need at least 4 of you guys.
And even smoking cigarettes with his rear end. Le Beto Man became so popular that his audiences included the prince.
Oh, could you imagine getting nicotine on the mucous membrane of your anus, though? Oh my God, I'd be throwing up. The last cigarette I ever smoked made me throw up because of the nicotine was so wah.
Of Wales and King Leopold II of Belgium. He performed until World War I, when he retired from the stage and returned to his original
chamber music has a whole new meaning, Ember.
profession as a baker. Interestingly, even in modern times, when Le Beto Man's story was adapted for theater in 2001, several theaters rejected it, claiming their audiences were too sophisticated for the subject matter. And this really points out to something ironic about our entire history. We're told that ancient and medieval people were capable of creating these magnificent architectural works, impossibly complex cathedrals, perfect stone structures, and engineering marvels. Yet at the same time, these supposedly advanced builders were completely obsessed with farting. If you've seen the video on waste management and poop fuel, you might see where I'm going with this. But think about it. How do we reconcile a society that was supposedly sophisticated enough to build these incredible structures, yet they were throwing waste into the streets and building massive entertainment culture around farting? More importantly, why didn't any
Because we're humans. Yeah, he's got to tie Tartaria into this at some point. That's his thing. Yeah, I need a fart tat.
these magnificent buildings have proper bathrooms or sewage systems? It's almost as if these people who built these structures didn't need them. What makes more sense is that these medieval fart enthusiasts weren't the builders, they were the inheritors of these cities after the reset. When their diet and energy source changed, they suddenly had to deal with bodily functions that their predecessors didn't have. They were literally discovering farting for the first time.
Oh, finally we get to the conspiracy. I've been having a lot of fun with this video, but it took a long time to get to his conspiracy about it, that people didn't fart before the reset. Fartaria.
Which explains why they found it so fascinating and entertaining. It doesn't make too much sense that people who were throwing their poop on the street, getting drunk, and entertained with farts would be responsible with the construction of many of these structures, and more likely points to the fraudulent nature of our history.
There it
It would
is.
seem that many of the ancient references of farting are really just from the medieval age after the reset. The civilizations before the reset likely didn't.
People have always been fascinated with farting. I'm sure that Pleistocene people farted into their campfires and were ooh about it. I'm sure. This is not like all the different things that humans can do with their bodies. There's some weird stuff I can do. Let's see if I can do it. There's this place on my neck that I can make fart sounds with. Right there. Yeah. So people's bodies are weird. Yeah.
Experience these bodily functions the same way. They were in harmony with nature, living off roots and proper breathing techniques. What we're seeing in these supposed medieval times
Fruit.
is actually
Oh, because are we doing like an ark sort of thing where before there was no predation and everybody just ate fruit off the vine?
the documentation of a society struggling to adapt to new bodily functions, most likely brought on by the consumption of meat and the fall from that higher state of being.
Oh my gosh.
That's my take anyways.
Is the claim here that vegans don't fart? Because I have some news for you about that concept. That vegans and vegetarians don't fart. It's actually a meme that they do. They do indeed, because everybody needs protein in their diet, my friend. Everybody needs protein.
But tell me your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and all we can hope is that our minds may be unveiled.
Let go of everything you think to be true. Relax the mind and ask the question, do I truly understand what this reality is?
Mind unveiled. All right. That was bathroom humor for the day. The reset. We finally got to the reset. People didn't fart before the reset. That's just the truth. All right. Wow, that ran a lot longer than it usually does. We're going to get the full 3 hours. You're probably going to get the full 3 hours out of me today anyway. We'll see how it goes. But I'm going to take another intermission because I got to go potty and stuff. And then we will continue on. But for my Wednesday viewing audience, please remember to be kind, take care, and don't forget to weaponize your farts as necessary. We'll see you next time. All right, live from the Hive audience. Do not leave me, please, because we have the world's biggest crayfish coming up right in just a few minutes, and I think you're gonna you're gonna like how massive this sucker is. But stick around. We're gonna take a quick intermission. I gotta go potty, and then we will we'll move right along. It's gonna be fun. Hang out. I'll be right back with ya.
On this episode of God Made What? Now, normally I like to talk about cephalopods, but this time we're going to talk about a different type of mollusk. This is the Limix maximus, otherwise known as the giant leopard slug. And it deserves that name. I mean, look at the size of this thing. Now, despite its size, it still falls short in compared to the great black slug. And I wanted to bring up these creatures because they're not only hermaphrodites, but also because of their mating ritual. So what they do is climb themselves up into a high point, play a little bondage by hanging from a slime rope, And they not only intertwine themselves, but they also intertwine their little dinghies, located behind her head of all places. And look, when they climax, they form this flower thing to exchange sperm. And once they're really done, all the one does is just plop themselves to the ground while the other one climbs back up the rope. So for anybody that still thinks that in nature, sex happens between a male and a female organism, here's these, guys.
Hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome to another installment of Bree's Bestiary. That was Junie, by the way, that we just saw there, teaching us a little bit about slugs. Junie is adorable. I'm in love with her and want to have her babies. She's adorable. But I've been trying to talk her into coming down here and having a little vacay with us and in the desert, and then we can go out and search for giant slugs and scorpions and stuff in the desert at night with my little flashlight that pulls out and spotlights animals that fluoresce. It'll be fun. I need people to come out here and go bug hunting with me. We'll have to do it at night because it gets hot during the Anyway, on today's episode. Now back to being distracted from Junie's adorable little butt. We're talking about another giant of the Protostomia clade. These guys are huge. This is the biggest crayfish in the world. Actually, they're from Tasmania. Tasmania is a neat place. Lots of unique fauna, but. Let's just jump right in. Save the lobsters. Yeah, because they do call them lobsters because of their size. They're as big as a lobster. Look at this. Watch. Homie's going to grab a big one. You'll see how... Yeah. They live in these cold water... Oh, there it is.
Oh, you're a nice boy. Claws on you. Don't be annoying. Come here, mate. Let's have a look at you. Oh, you're a big boy.
I bet you didn't expect that, did ya? Bet you were expecting maybe the size of a can or something about that size. The sucker is lobster size. He's a two-hander. Absolutely massive.
Mate, you'll be 30 years old, I reckon. Look at the claw on
Look
that.
how huge he is.
You do some damage to them, tiger. Alright, well, let's have a look at you.
Absolute
Might
beast.
even get you weighed and measured.
I love him so much.
Hold your horses. Go there for a minute, matey.
Mate, when I've rung up the Federal Department of the Environment and explained the situation...
He's right there, too. If you don't know, he's right here. We can see him.
Including
around in the
devils,
corner here.
Lobsters, species of birds and mammals and whatever. I keep telling
And I can't get this any louder. I don't know why.
Well, who's ever responsible, it's a massive problem. It's got to be changed. It can't keep destroying the habitat of you said. So
Is that better?
under this RFA review, what do you hope
There he is. Look at that big guy.
in terms of the lobster in particular?
This animal is a priority species under the RFA, and 20 years later, not 1 hectare has been specifically put aside as a reserve for some of their habitat. Now, there have been buffer zones put in on certain streams, so you've got a stream like this, which is probably a class 3, would have a...
You do not eat my friend. Tsumami. Do not eat my friend. Bree, why do they resemble Atlantic lobsters rather than Pacific? Their coloration is camouflage for these cold water streams that they live in. Like, look at these ferns. These ferns kind of give you an idea of what the environment's like down here in these bottoms. This Tasmania is very montane. It's like a lot of highlands. And these streams, they run deep and cold in dark valleys, and these guys live under rocks and under overhangs and things like that. So they're generally pretty dark and mottled. But as far as their size and anatomy, I can only speculate.
30-metre buffer. But if you go upstream, where all these streams start, then it's not considered suitable habitat, and so they don't put...
He's my friend. He's not delicious. He's a little old. He's like 30 years old. He's an old guy. Or old gal, maybe.
The bigger buffers on. Basically, you get these places cleared almost to the stream side. And this is a priority species. This is listed as a priority species under the RFA. So if it's a priority species, why haven't they made it a priority to look at some of...
I know he looks delicious. And in order to be able to have more of these delicious species, we needed to protect the ones that are here. Can we? Yeah. So, before you all decide to start eating these fellas, we need to get their population back up or there won't be any more. Kind of like when Zoidberg species came to Earth and wiped out the anchovies. Remember? Remember when that happened? Because they didn't let them reproduce. They kept saying, well, let's have one more. And the next thing you know, they were gone. And that's what happened.
The headwaters and some of the subcatchments and say, look, for this animal, we'll put aside some of these areas so we know they're always going to be in good condition. But they haven't done it. And 20 years later, we go to a meeting and again, oh, we're going to think about this. We might do some more studies. Well, enough study. We know where they live. We know what they need.
You guys seem to get your sound
Put aside
I guess
small areas.
I'm being mean because they're in the fast running creek, and I'm like, your sound is terrible. I'm such a bitch. He's probably got a lapel mic.
So they can live, I guess, unhindered forevermore. There's not that many areas left, believe it or not. There's only,
Well, there might be a boom. Do you think there's a boom over top of them, maybe?
Certain subcatchments now they're considered good. So the reality is, as a species, as a priority species, it's Mickey Mouse. They've done nothing for them really as far as reserves. And
true. Eating friends can be a kindness, of course. To be fair, mostly my friends walk away from the experience after they recover. Oh my. Oh me, oh my.
20 years later, I don't want to come back here and say, okay, we've run out of time, we've run out of land. The time is now to do something with this animal. Enough talk, enough politics, enough rhetoric. Okay, if it's a priority species, start making it a priority.
On an international basis, I know that science...
See, it's just the contrast between his audio and his audio that's making me think that there's maybe a boom that's not being moved back and forth the right way. I don't know, but shotgun mic on the camera, sure.
...that come out from Germany and wherever else. What would they say if they were here now, having seen the impact of man on this localised environment in connection not only to the lobster but to the other threatened species?
It's right there.
Look, if the lobster's protected, so every other species in this creek will be protected, which is blackfish, galaxids, all the bugs, the invertebrates, everything is protected. So this is called a flagship species, and it's quite common around the world that people, use a flagship species to look after everything else that lives in their environment. And that's fine because no one cares about, a certain slug that might be found halfway up a tree.
Except for Junie does. She just did it. We just saw Junie doing it. I guess now that if I cut this out as a Breeze Bestiary segment, I have to put Junie's segment in here too.
But this is the largest freshwater invertebrate on the planet, and so people care. I guess if people from other countries come over and look at what's going on in Tassie, it's horrifying because there are no limits. It just seems to me like there's a game here where the industry says we're doing the right thing, but they're not. The government says we're doing this as a priority species, where we've got legislation in plans, blah, blah, blah.
Don't record crappy audio in a creek, like and share. The visuals are great, though, I gotta say, with the waterfall in the background and the ferns, and the crayfish crawling around in the front. It looks good. I think a boom mic might have been a better choice, in my opinion, even if it was in frame.
but nothing happened.
Or dual lapel mics would be nice too.
It's all talk, no
It's all
action.
talk, no action, and the bush is going backwards. And I don't think you have to be a rabid greenie to say, I want the bush looked after so these things survive.
I'm a rabid greenie though, so don't you worry about that, baby. I'm all about protecting your lobsters.
And thrive in a habitat that is what they were living in 200 years ago. Now, this is progress, I know, but progress doesn't mean that you can stop looking after bits of bush. And at the moment, northwest Tassie is running out of good creeks and rivers. Most of them are sedimented already, and we are coming to an end game now where if we don't stop and say, look, we're going to look after this bit, and that bit, they're not going to be there.
And I'm in no place to be criticizing anybody's audio either. How many times do I pop back up from an intermission muted and start chattering? Or how many times do I have the video muted and watch it for a minute until you guys say, hey, Bree, get your shit together?
20, 30 years' time, and these blokes are going to have substandard habitat. They might not become extinct, but that's not the point.
Bye, Bryce. Have a good one.
You don't want them to be on the brink. You want them to thrive. And for them to thrive, they need to have...
Yeah, so my hive can eat them. They want to eat them with butter, but you all have to protect them so that we can maybe harvest them once there's a stable population. Or maybe a captive breeding program is in order.
Their habitat looked after. And we haven't done it. No matter what the state government says, no matter what the federal government says, no matter what the industry say, we haven't done the right thing by the habitat of these animals yet. And it's about time we pulled our finger out and did it.
Well, for people who are going to be seeing this filming, the surrounding district here, and we'll get general shots of it later.
So beautiful.
Now, there will be buffer zones on the sides of the creek, but if you look up and around, you'll see where forestry impact has already been felt in terms of allowing...
Yeah, and these environments don't exist in a vacuum. They need the expanse of wilderness around them to create these cool water environments. Just, flattening and agriculturalizing the landscape around them is going to change the temperature of the water, the type of foliage that's able to thrive in the environment. It's going to change these, even if you spare this acreage directly around the cold water streams. It's going to have an ecological impact by cutting back the surrounding forest.
Light in, which you might care to expand on in terms of the lobsters, the impact of light.
Look, if you've got trees, you've got shade. Shade will keep the temperature of this creek up to 5 degrees.
Oh, he's going to go into that, yeah.
Now, on a hot day, even Tassie gets to say 25, 30 degrees. If these blokes sit in 23 degree water, they will eventually die. It's too hot. This creek should not go above 18, 19 degrees, even in summer, because of the shade. And you can see by the shade here on the creek itself, it's 95% covered by shade. It's actually quite cold here where we're filming. I mean, my knees are in the water, they're not hot. But for these blokes, that's perfect. They're not like the...
Congratulations on the weight loss, Ember. Lost 4 pounds this week. Getting sent to a stop that induces violent illness has 1+. Oh no, don't say it that way. Yuck. Oh, poor baby. I don't give him hugs.
The mainland where you can have 25, 28 degree water. These blokes are dead. We realise that we can't take the shade away from these streams. We're going to have more issues with this. We've already got creeks running into towns now that are too hot for these blokes to survive in. It's not good enough. It really has to change.
I like how he's decided that they're blokes. That's so cute.
With forestry in Tasmania trying to get forestry stewardship certification, to me it's a joke. And to me and to many other people within Tasmania, unless Forestry Tas and the government start to do things in a proper manner, go back to no clear felling, selective logging, limited use of chemicals which would be disastrous for these things, then I just don't see a future in Tasmania for FSC. They don't deserve it, they shouldn't get it, And the forest stewardship council to me have a responsibility to the whole community and not the industry.
Yeah, that's
We're finding out that government departments are too scared to talk to us because...
Thank you for the clarification, Andrew. For those not familiar with the Aussie speak. For those not familiar with the Aussie speak, pull your finger out means pull your finger out of your ass, meaning to get on with it. Every bug is a bloke. Crikey. Yeah. All right, D. I see D and Bryce are going to bounce. We're about done here, too. I don't know if I'm going to finish this whole video, but I'm just trying to get the gist of the conservation efforts here. So thank you for sticking around for it if you have.
There's the FSC hanging over the top. So I can just see that unless something happens quickly and effectively, Tasmania is just going to lose on the basis of environment and everything we're talking about.
I guess the thing that people really need to understand about how a river system works is you've got the bush right here, you've got this fern coming right into the creek itself, and up in that bush you've got what's called leaf litter, which is basically a massive amount of leaves, twigs, ferns compacted onto the soil. So when it rains, this actually filters out all the dirt from hitting the creek. And that is really important for baby lobsters because this creek here has got rocks and gravel and larger rocks there that they can actually fit under. Now, a baby lobster is as big as your fingernail, so it's very, very tiny.
Oh, it's so cute. I want to poops it. Oh.
And even a 5-year-old lobster will fit in the palm of your hand, so it takes a long time, and so they need these shallow areas with rocks to hide under for food, for shelter, and basically for survival. And so if you introduce sediment into the creek, you'll see over here, everything's covered. Now, a baby lobster has to hide somewhere. If it can't hide, it means it's exposed. If it's exposed to predators like platypus, blackfish, trout, galaxids, other lobsters, birds. If they're exposed, they're eaten. Also, if they can't get under these rocks because of the sediment, they lose their food supply, which are all the insects and the leaves that you'll find. This is lobster food here, a bit of lobster food there. And you'll also find, if I lift up some of these rocks, there's a little mayfly here. That's lobster food. And so the whole food chain breaks down because of sediment. Now, we've talked ad nauseam.
Yes, it's called Tropic Cascade.
About the fishing being banned for these animals. A great thing that stopped so many lobsters being taken. But the end game is the habitat. If you don't stop this sediment coming into the stream, the habitat's destroyed and your population will crash. Make no mistake, everywhere that I do surveys that's heavily sedimented, the population is probably less than 10% of that in the bush. It's as simple as that. If you haven't got these things filtering the water, if you haven't got these rocks for them to hide under, then you've got real trouble. The sediment will kill them. It's as simple as that. And to take away this bush, to take away the leaves, the twigs, the fern, the fronds that fall down and make a filter system will basically wipe out a population.
Had a hangnail.
Like this here is a mayfly, which is baby lobster food. And in a good system, you'll find hundreds of these animals. In fact, on this small rock here, there's 2 mayflies. You'll also find caddisflies.
And they'll eat, yeah, oh, sorry, he's not going.
Amphipods, worms, and these sustain young lobsters. Young lobsters tend to eat more high protein sources because they need to grow quickly to avoid being eaten. And so you need this animal source as well as the plant source, which is going to be these leaves that we're finding here everywhere. That's lobster food, and also there are animals living on these leaves in the water that are lobster food as well. So the whole system breaks down when you've got...
And they'll eat mosquito larvae, yeah. And they'll eat, yeah, there's a lot of pest species and stuff that these guys will eat too.
Introduced. I've just been upstream up there looking under rocks. The juveniles tend to prefer rocks that are probably the size of your fist, but generally a lot bigger. So you'll be looking at soccer ball, football sized rocks. And that's where the babies will live. Now these babies will live in the shallows under these rocks for up to 5 years, possibly even longer, because it's the only place they're safe from bigger lobsters like the one down here, and from fish, from other predators such as platypus and birds. And so it's a pretty hard life being a baby lobster. It takes from probably 2,000 lobsters, you might only get 4 or 5 to adulthood. In the first year, half of them are eaten. And so
that's pretty badass that there's platypus in this environment too. The big one looked as big as a platypus, if not a bit bigger.
They haven't got those rocks to climb under and also feed under, because there's nothing worse than having to duck out of a rock to get a feed. If the food supply is there under the rock with it, then life's a lot safer. And so I've lifted up probably 100 rocks, and I've got a baby juvenile, and we can have a look at the size compared to this large adult. Now the juvenile's only 2 years old, and certainly might not survive the next 20 years anyway, but with any luck, it will get to this size if it's one of the lucky ones. But I guess the point to make is that if the sediment comes into this stream and covers up those holes and becomes, I guess the rocks become embedded so they can't actually get under them, then you've got all sorts of troubles for the juveniles, and they will get eaten. I mean, life's hard enough. I think it's probably less than 1% survival estimated. If you take away the habitat that actually increases that survival, then you're basically looking at, say, one...
You'd be taking away that platypus's food. So even if you think the lobsters are ugly or are uncharismatic enough to care about, or not charismatic enough to care about, most people stand a platypus, and this is the platypus's food supply. So You want these guys dipped in butter. Platypus wants them raw and wriggling, and nobody wins if they get disappeared from the food chain. So,
and a million chance of survival. So a juvenile lobster's got it hard enough without us introducing all that sediment, taking away the food supply, and covering their homes. Okay, well, obviously the first thing to look at with an animal this size, everybody wants to look at the claws. If you look at this side, this claw he probably lost in the first 2 years of his life and it's grown back, mainly because it's skinnier and a bit slenderer along there. If I turn him around, you see the muscle inside this claw fully formed, quite thicker, and
well, most crayfish have a big claw and a smaller, thinner claw. They do different things. They got a crushing claw and a grabbing claw.
Knobs inside the claw are also quite a bit bigger. So this is the original claw. This one he lost early in life, but he's lucky enough to lose it early. If he'd lost it later in life, you'd find it only be half the size. These claws are quite capable of breaking bone, so it's not a good idea to stick your hand or fingers in them. And if he gets hold of me, I'll know about it. But he can't actually feed with those claws. He can't actually get them into his mouth. He feeds by using the pincers on his two front legs, and they angle right into the mouth parts, which are here. Now these mouth parts actually force food down his throat, and they also have a chopping motion or a slicing motion. So he forces food down his throat with these nippers, and also the mouth parts here. The antenna, he's got two large ones, basically feeling his way around. You don't want to bump into another lobster this size or bigger because you might actually lose your claws or your legs or your life. The smaller ones are much more sensitive to taste and smell, and so he'll actually detect a lot of his food by using the antenna.
He's ready to pinch though. Look at him. He's like, stick it in there. Go ahead. Goth lobster.
The eyesight's not too bad. He's also got eye protectors right there.
We were in the bush. Dun, 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 looking for giant crawdads. Dun, 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 dun. They had platypus that ate them. Dun, 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 dun. But those claws can pinch real bad now.
So he can protect his eyes because the life of a lobster is pretty rough. They spend most of their time living with other lobsters, and every now and again you have
Goth lobster.
a bad day, then you have a fight. On a bad day,
Goth lobster.
having a fight means you lose your life or 2 or 3 of your legs. So it's not an easy life being a lobster. Now it's a big boy. They do tend to have bigger claws, but also if you see where above my fingers you'll see sperm sacs, and he'll be mating around at March, April, depending on the season. It can
Don't be touching his sperm sacs, guys. Come on.
vary a bit. The female will have 2 holes here where the eggs are extruded. The male actually releases sperm that actually dissolves in little canisters that actually dissolve in water. So when those canisters that are holding the sperm dissolve, the sperm comes out and fertilises the eggs. If it was a female, the eggs would be held under the tail here. And they'll be held for around 9 months. Hatch Christmas. The juveniles will stay there for 6 to 8 weeks and leave the mother around about mid-February. I guess the other thing to point out...
I think I made everybody leave with my singing. I'm sorry.
With these animals are the scars. Now it's pretty hard to pick up, but he's got a good scar there above my finger, and that basically is from the knobs inside another male's claw. So these knobs do tend to crush, and you've got a hole there that I can always put my finger in, a hole there, I can put my finger in, and a hole there. So he's been fighting a bit.
Phoebe fingering his holes now.
With other lobsters, and he's not that big. This bloke probably three and a bit kilo. They get up to 6 kilos, so double the weight. So he won't get much longer, but his claws will get thicker, set, and heavier, and the body will get heavier. So like I said, he's only half the weight of the maximum size ever recorded, which means they're quite a big animal.
Could you imagine one that's twice that weight? I mean, he said it's the same length, but just is girthy. You're talking about a head like that big around. It's already bigger around than a can. It's about the size of a 2-liter.
Oh, he's quite hard to hold with one hand. If you look under the tail again, this is for balance. A female will hold the eggs on these clear pots. Also, they're used for balance in the water, and you'll see when they're walking along, they move backwards and forwards. It's like your toes. If you don't have toes, you won't have balance. I guess the final thing that stands out are the flatworms on the inside of his claws here. They're a primitive worm that spend their whole life cycle on the lobster. So you can see they're crawling around here. In the water, they've got 3 tentacles that actually stick up.
I actually saw some when he was talking about it, sperm cells, and I was wondering spermatophores, and I was wondering what they were. So I'm glad he's going to mention it.
They're filter feeders, and they feed on the algae that will grow in his shell and detritus. But the eggs of those animals are actually these little yellow cases here. So the whole life cycle is dependent on the lobster itself. Generally, if you have a creek that isn't in good condition, you'll find that the flatworms tend to drop off pretty quick, and the lobster has a clean shell of flatworms, and so it's a good indication of chemicals and pollutants in the water. So I'll pop him back because he's not happy.
Yeah, he probably needs to breathe, dude.
But that's the basics of a lobster, and especially a big male like this bloke here, who would have been 30 years old today. His birthday, maybe.
Goth lobster! Sorry. I'm so sorry.
What length was the biggest lobster that you've caught, please?
He'd be 70 centimetres stretched out. The biggest one, probably 87 that I've caught. The biggest one's ever known. It's only estimates, 110. You're like, he's only half weight. That's in itself pretty hard to
That's
believe, isn't it?
crazy.
So yeah, they get bigger.
There's something prehistoric about them, isn't there? It's just the design is absolutely intriguing.
They go back millions of years. Around the Cretaceous period.
I like that he's like, oh, the design. He's like, no, millions of years. Billions of years, no design. Thank you.
Righto, so this bloke here, he's 2 years old. This bloke here, he's 30 years old. And I guess the sizes speak for themselves. These blokes are really vulnerable for the first 5 to 10 years of their life.
I like he's doing the thing. Like, I will fight you. I'm a baby, but I will fight you.
This fella here, well, not much is going to attack him, but unfortunately, only 1 in 1,000 will get to this size. If we introduce all that sediment, keep clearing the bush the way we are, the odds are going to stack further against these blokes surviving, and all of a sudden, we're going to have a lot less getting to this size. And you can see that it's quite a big gap. So, would he eat him? Yes, he would.
Todd, I don't know.
Would he eat him? Yes, he would. No doubt.
But 58 hectares of this stuff, and further to the south is going to be clear-felled by forestry Tas. And a very quick background to it is that all sorts of threatened species in here: lobster, Tasmanian devil. We've had Nick Mooney, the Tasmanian expert, up here, very concerned because there's so much habitat up here. How the Premier of the state can decide to make the Tasmanian devil an icon, I don't know, when he's allowing them to be murdered in the clear felling areas. It's simple as that. Why they don't trap the marsupials prior to logging, I don't know, and the complaints and whinges continue to go on and nothing is done about it. Now, Forestry Tasmania have made application on more than one occasion for forest stewardship certification. My humble opinion is, with the damage that's been done and is continuing to be done, as I've said previously on film, there is no way they should entertain Forestry Tasmania ever getting forest stewardship certification. Now, you know more than I do about the RFA stuff. If you could explain your opinion on this and what's coming out of the RFA review.
I just find it really difficult to grasp that you can become certified internationally with the practices that you are currently undertaking. I think you look at a clear-felled bush, a stream that's covered in sediment, a bush that's been clear-felled and then burnt over the top of the streams. I think the arguing about whether these animals, these lobsters, live in the feeder streams, it's irrelevant. They flow downstream, so if you clear the top of those, it's going to affect the younger ones, when their own science says that a small increase in sedimentation levels will affect the baby lobsters.
And it'll cascade down and affect everything else in the ecosystem. And there's giant eels here too.
For the life of me, I can't understand how any international community would say, yes, we think you are doing the right thing and we'll give you this certificate of certification. It's just gobsmacking, because they're not doing the right thing. We have argued for 20 years about the buffer zones on river systems. We've argued for 20 years about getting some reserves put aside. And the science isn't there for them to say, no, we're doing the right thing. We are doing the right thing by buffers. We're not sure about what happens if all stuff flows downstream. We're not sure what happens when it rains. Well, hang on. You're trying to prove to the world that...
I wish that my country cared as much about their waterways and their indigenous species as these Tassie men do here.
You are world's best practice. Then get the science behind it and show the world that you are looking after unique animals, because at the moment it doesn't stack up.
I'd have to say that FSC credibility is on the line.
Oh, I'd agree.
Their credibility, if they're allowing this to happen to threatened species in areas like this, not just the lobster but the whole list of them, FSC have a lot to be ashamed of already, and they need to change their way of looking at things if their credibility is to be considered on a worldwide basis, especially in Tasmania. That's how I am. I have tried to contact the head of FSC, won't ring back. He has been invited to this area, no response. So that's why I'm afraid I have to say the things that I'm saying now.
I think there's a process they'll consider, but I think you've also got to look outside that process and go, okay, here are the facts, here are the pictures, here are the stories, and say, okay, are we doing the right thing in Tassie by our native animals? And look, when you see plans put out and they don't find the certain threatened species flora, they argue that because a lobster doesn't live in this small creek, it somehow isn't impacted if that creek is full of sediment. That doesn't stack up. If you've got Tasmanian devils here, there is no capture and release somewhere else. And I think to have experts come...
Oh yeah, Tasmanian devils are suffering quite a bit too. No, I don't think they're shrieking eels, unfortunately. They're regular eels. And platypus live here too. And of course our goth lobster.
Come in and find that they haven't, or they've missed so much, it doesn't add that they are competent.
Well, that's what's happened here. If it hadn't been for local people employing or getting other people in, they wouldn't have found half the stuff that they should have found at the beginning. And so that their credibility, be it Forestry Tas, Forest Practice Authority, the whole thing, the whole government thing, it just doesn't wash. Tasmanian people are very, very sick of it. And it's time for change right now while these reviews are going on.
Time for change. Down with capitalism.
Well, look, the big thing in politics...
Sorry, did that come out?
In Tasmania, I think it's really important that anyone who watches this video understands there's a lot of money behind the scenes that props up this industry. There's a very small minority of people that have invested in this industry and will not let it do what we think is right. The people on the ground will follow the rules. The people halfway up the food chain will follow.
There are no rodents indigenous to Tasmania? No.
Follow the rules, but we all know that there are people behind the scenes that have got a lot invested in this, and I don't think they care what happens. And I think it's time the community stop thinking that anyone who says we're not doing the right thing in the bush is a rabid greenie. I think the farmers, I think the average person who goes and watches them.
There's nothing wrong with being a rabid greenie when you live on a tiny island that's ecology is freaking so balanced that this island needs rabid greenies. So you rabid greenie away, my love. Rabid greenie away for 420 day.
Which is me, the average person in the street knows. By driving past, they can see that this has not gone the way that it should have gone. Now, clear felling and the way it's happened in Tassie, it's pretty ordinary. And I think people have had enough. Unfortunately, you get the politicians and industry heavyweights using the media to portray anyone who fights against it as being some sort of fringe person. Well, look, it's mainstream now. This is mainstream stuff with mainstream people, with mainstream concerns, because Blind Freddy can walk past this bush and go, this needs to be looked after, and Blind Freddy can also walk past a coop and say, that's rubbish what they've done there. You've got shit coming into the creek, you've got mud coming into the creek, you've got trees down everywhere, and they're napalming it. Come on. You know, it's mainstream now. It's not fringe anymore, and it's about time people wake up and realise that.
Yeah. So I'm here for that. It is time that people realize that. Not just about this, just a good example of isolated ecology needing to be protected, right? You could say the same thing about the Ozarks, for instance. Isolated ecology. There's every little mountain range out here in the desert has its own indigenous species of arthropods, including some unique tarantulas, which are near and dear to my heart. So we need to make an effort to protect, to stand up for, and to make sure that there is adequate habitat for indigenous species. We just need to do that. So, I mean, are you here with me? Are we all on the same team about this? I sure hope so. But yeah, I know we joke about wanting to eat these things, but we won't be able to eat them if they're extinct. So absolutely, save the Tasmanian giant crayfish, or as they call them, lobsters, but they're crayfish. They're the biggest crayfish, biggest freshwater crayfish. Anyway, I think that's about it for the show today. Please remember to... Oh, I almost forgot. I'm going to be on Bad Science Sunday tomorrow. I almost forgot to say that. It's a 420 special. I'll be there. I'll probably wear this bandana, but I'm thinking about maybe wearing it like... there goes my hair. Maybe wearing it like Tommy Chong style instead. I like wearing it that way as well, but I was thinking about... Yeah, I almost forgot to plug you, Maya. Never want to forget to plug Maya. Like, oh, maybe not with that. Like, maybe like this tomorrow. I'm thinking, like hippie style. I look cute like this. Yeah. I think so anyway. I get to decide how I look cute. All right, so, yeah. As I was saying, please remember to be kind. Take care. See you next time.
Yo, VIPs, let's wick it. Alright, stop. Collaborate and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly. Flow like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, don't know. Turn off the light. I glow to the extreme. I rock a mic like a vandal. Light up a stage and wax a chomp like a candle. Dance. Bum rush, speaking that boom. Killing your brain like a poisonous mushroom. Deathbed. When I play it on melody. Anything less than the best is a felony. Love it or leave it. Better gain weight. Better hit bulls like the kid don't play. If there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while DJ revolves it. Ice, ice, baby. Vanilla ice, ice, baby. Vanilla ice, ice, baby. Vanilla ice, ice, baby. Well, now that the party is jumping with the bass kicked in and the Vegas are pumping, quick to the point, no faking, cooking MCs like a pound of bacon, burning them, we're not quick and nimble. Go crazy when I hear a cymbal, a hot top with a souped up gimbo. On a roll, time to go solo, rolling in my 5.0, rack top down when my hair can blow. is on standby, waving just to say hi. Did you stop? No, I just drove by, kept on pursuing to the next stop, busted left. Headed to the next block, block was dead. Yo, I continue to A1A. Beachfront Avenue. Girls were hot, wearing less than bikinis. Rock man lovers, driving Lamborghinis. Jealous, cause I'm out hitting my shade with a gauge of vanilla with a 9 ready for the jumps off the wall. Jumps at the nail, cause I'm full of 8-ball gunshots. Ranged out like a bell. Grabbed my 9, all I heard was shells falling on the concrete. Real fast, guns in the car. Stand on the gas, bumper to bumper. Avenues packed. Try to get away before the jackers jack. Police on the scene, know what I mean? They passed me up in front and on the dope beat. If there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while DJ revolves it. Ice, ice, baby, vanilla ice, ice, baby, vanilla ice, ice, baby, vanilla ice, ice, baby. Well, take it cause I'm a lyrical poet. Miami's on the scene in case you didn't know it. My town created all the bass sound enough to shake and kick holes in the ground. My style's like a chemical spill. Feasible rhymes, taking vision and feel. Conducted and formed is a hell of a concept. We make it hype. You wanna step with this? Shape plays on the fade, slice like a ninja, cut like a razor blade. So fast, other DJs say, damn, if a rhyme was a drug, I'd sell it by the gram. Keep a composure when it's time to get loose. Man, it dies by the fight while I kick my juice. If there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while TV revolves it. Ice, ice, baby, vanilla ice, ice, baby, vanilla ice, ice, baby.
With all the noise, pseudoscience, and political rhetoric clogging the airwaves about transgender people, it can be difficult to understand what's really happening and what's really true. Good news, everyone! Welcome to The Transpositions, your compass in the rugged landscape of transgender issues. Here, we strive to be the beacon of authenticity, providing a platform that amplifies the voices and experiences of the transgender community. From breaking news to in-depth features to breaking down the real science, we are committed to fostering understanding, empathy, and empowerment for all individuals across the gender spectrum. Join us as we navigate the complexities, celebrate the triumphs, and advocate for the rights of transgender people worldwide. Together, we can redefine boundaries, challenge stereotypes, and champion inclusivity. Subscribe today. The link is in the description.